Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Breakfast with Boom. I am your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and we have an incredible show prepared for you today. It is going to be something very special. We have two massive guests joining us, and we're going to do the introductions now. We are waiting for several of the panel members and one guest that is on the way here. His PC decided to update when he was going to jump onto the show, of course, because that's just what happened. But we are going to start with one of our guests, Hogue Law. Hogue, first of all, dude, it is an honor to work with you. I've been a big fan of your work. I saw you first, and I found out about you on the Iron Lords podcast. And those are my brothers. Those are friends of yours as well.
Yeah, fantastic, guys.
And have been a fan of you ever since. And of course, you have been, based on some of the things that you said in your video that was 34 minutes about the leaked legal documents, you have been very busy on YouTube putting out a lot of content because, there's been a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's been a week.
It certainly has. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. What better way to spend a Friday morning?
Well, I'm happy that you're here because, like I said, I kind of want to push people towards your content. I thought the video was very well done. And again, from a layman's terms perspective, because I understand law, but I'm more law enforcement than I am, like personal law or civil law. So there was a lot of things I personally did not understand, but you made it easy to understand. So I definitely want to get into that. And our other guest, this guy, he is been on fire. He is very saucy. He is also someone that is very in tune with this community. Gaz from Game On Daily. Gaz, how you feeling, brother?
I'm good. How are you, man? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you know what? Listen, when we joked about this, two lawyers on one show.
This is going to be the most boring show in the history of mankind.
We're going to send the invoices after the episode. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's going to be boring, Gaz. I think what we're going to have here is really some important opinions, and we're going to hear it both from a fan's perspective and more importantly from a legal perspective, and even more from a business perspective of what all of this means. But again, our two PlayStation guys are not here yet. I'm hoping that they get here momentarily because I think that I really want to hear their opinion on what is going on. But let's continue with the rest of the introductions. Next up, you know him as someone from the incredible show known as Breaking Bread with Dread. Dreadpool, how are you feeling? Welcome to the show.
Oh, good morning, everyone. How y'all doing? Thank you guys for showing up and making sure we start on time, But yeah, we're just playing some games and surprisingly found a game that I got stuck on Game Pass. And my wife looked at me and she's like, "What are you playing?" I'm like, "I don't know." And I'm just having fun. And she's like, "It looks stupid." I said, "I know, but it's stupid fun. I don't care."
Now, is that which game is that?
That's that Donut Hole.
Oh, Donut Hole is fun, dude. Like I actually quite enjoyed that. That was
right. It was just.
It's silly. It's silly fun.
Yeah, it's just like stupid fun. It was you're just mind boggling. You don't even think. You just do, and just had a great time with it. It's surprisingly, I wouldn't have bought that game in the first place.
Well,
I don't know what pushed me to try it out, but I did.
And that's the magic of Game Pass. More importantly, I think anyway, I thought that gaming was supposed to be fun, which is what you're having, and that is super important. Next up, you know him as someone with the best voice in gaming, who definitely should be voicing a character. Please welcome Crispy Bomb. What's up, brother? How you feeling?
Oh, what is up, everybody? And I'm down for that. I'm for hire. So anybody wants to, hit me up. I got a lot of different voices. I've done them over the time. I just woke up. I'm not going to do that right now, but yes, it's awesome to be here. Great to have our two guests, and I'm looking forward to getting into this blasphemy of gaming. I'm just saying. No.
Well, again, everyone's going to have some big opinions, but you know what? As we wait for Mr. Badbit and BitCloud Gaming to join us, and hopefully they'll join us momentarily, we have to open up because we don't have Hogue Law for the entire show. We have him only for about an hour, so I have to get into the topics. But you know what? Let's Hogue. Let's highlight the video. You put out a video. It was 34 minutes in length. I thought that I was sitting at the edge of my seat for the entire thing. Because obviously right now the leaked documentation, and it was 4 pages of legal documents regarding the Resident Evil Village between Capcom and of course Sony. And we know that Sony has the marketing rights, and we know that we learned some really important things regarding Game Pass. We also learned from the video that actual monies, did not exchange. Really, what was done was $5 million in advertising, which obviously they do on the PlayStation Store, and I'm sure you're going to see commercials on sports programs and other male dominated shows that we're going to watch or are supposed to watch, because Resident Evil is one of those horror games. It does have a unique fan base. I just want you, because I know that we're not going to go too deep into exactly what was done with the video, because again we have limited time. Sure. My question to you is what we were talking in the green room, and this is again one of those situations where if you look at what Sony proper has done, meaning PlayStation, in the last, let's say 30 days, 45 days, it has not been good for Sony. This is maybe considered by many another black eye, simply because it's another negative story. And it seems like they cannot stop the bleeding. Even when they try to do something not right, where they pulled back their statement with the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 3 stores shutting down, something like this happens. Now, again, we have had no confirmation or from Sony, right? But my question to you, from a businessman's point of view, from a lawyer's point of view, this report was this contract, I should say, was apparently signed almost a year ago, May of 2020. Right now, yesterday we learned that Game Pass has surpassed 23 million subscribers, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But what I'm curious to get your take on is, after seeing the success of smaller titles like Octopath Traveler, medium-esque titles like Outriders, and of course AAA bombs like MLB The Show, can you actually see any other developer / publisher signing with Sony on a deal as specific as this, when you really box out the ability to go into Game Pass, which is the hot ticket right now, and more importantly, only offering advertisement, where if you look at what they do with Microsoft, they give them a big bag of cash, right? We have that on confirmation. They are paying these developers / publishers, but what they get on the back end is the advertisement from Xbox Game Pass. So they're getting paid and they're getting the advertisement. What are your thoughts and opinions on whether or not this deal that was made public, that usually is not, can hurt Sony in the long run?
Well, so a couple of things here. First of all, thank you for mentioning the video. I mean, the one thing I would say, and we talked about it a little bit, was that this is unsubstantiated.
Of course.
My video was about the fact that the content and the structure of the document lended itself to my reading to suggest that it was written by lawyers. But there are ways to fake that. And even if you had a copy of something that was true, there are ways to insert what you want to create controversy. And certainly on the internet, there are trolls of all kinds and all stripes. So we got to take it with a grain of salt. But if we assume that it's true, then there's a provision in there that says you won't go on a competing subscription service for a year from the game's release. And they highlight Game Pass. They highlight some others as well, but mostly people care about Game Pass. And your question is, would other people enter into a document like that? I think it depends a lot on the facts and circumstances surrounding your actual release. One of the things I pointed out in my video in Virtual Legality was it's a 1-year block, but it's not really a 1-year block for most games, because you point out MLB The Show, that has a third-party licensor that got involved and is kind of a special case. Outriders is the most unusual of the games released on Game Pass right now, in my opinion, because it was a launch title that just went for free for folks that were already subscribing to Game Pass. And it suggests to me that Square actually didn't have as much faith in it selling just at the $70 level or $60 level, whatever that price was, actually, because I'm playing it on Game Pass. And so put it on Game Pass in order to shore things up, like you said, to get an advance, to get money in the door, because they didn't know exactly how much they would make on the open market. For games like Resident Evil 8, for really, really large games, your Cyberpunk, since I was just talking about it this morning, I don't think that Game Pass in the first year, or at least the first 9 months or so, is going to be the method that most publishers are going to use, even with Microsoft putting out big amounts of money. Because on the one hand, it really matters what that number is. Just like buying a stock, just like investing in anything else, it matters what the number is. If Microsoft offers you $10 to go on Game Pass, and you're going to lose the sales from Microsoft, from the Microsoft side and potentially the Sony side, right? I was a done deal purchaser of Outriders on the Sony PlayStation, and then I didn't because Square put it on Game Pass. And did they make more money from me? I would suggest they probably didn't, but they're hoping they make more money in the aggregate, that there are fewer Ricks out there than other folks that maybe wouldn't have bought it if they didn't have access to it on the Game Pass. And that's their ambit. That's their decision to make as a business person. But in terms of would anybody else enter into a deal like this, I think the answer is yes. If they get enough from Sony, I think Resident Evil probably wasn't likely to hit Game Pass for minimum of 6 months so that they could go and collect their early entrant fees and then move it to Game Pass if they were so inclined. And so when we talk about a year-long block, it's not really a year-long block because it was probably never going day and date. Now, Microsoft has been sending out a lot of money, has been reported to a lot of folks, but there's also the expectation that I have that the Game Pass economic metrics are going to have to change at some point. They're still in what I consider the honeymoon phase. You still got your dollar subscriptions that are linked with gold. You've still got Microsoft paying tons of money to get content in there, to get the eyeballs, so that then at some point they can make sure it's economically viable. It's still right now essentially investment, proof of concept, and I think it's great. I think it will last. I think they're doing the right thing, but it's not going to look exactly like this either on the consumer side or the money to developers side at some point in the relatively near future or midterm. So I think it's always going to matter what is being offered on either side. And certainly relationships matter. You know, one of the reasons you look at a document like this, a lot of people on the internet, some Twitter lawyers and whatnot, look at it and say, well, it's really short. It doesn't cover 48 pages of documentation like I'm used to seeing if I'm scrolling through SEC filings. How can you be sure it's real? And I say, I'm not sure it's real, but I can tell you that if you've got a long-lasting relationship with another party, as Capcom and Sony do, then you start to write things in shorter form, especially when you can reference a different publisher agreement, which is what's referenced directly in the purported agreement that's, you know, circulating online. So Capcom, Sony loved each other, haven't burned each other, have a good relationship. You don't have to detail every possible bad thing that could happen with, oh, what do you mean by giving me $5 million in marketing? Yeah, it's a little short list, not as fulsome as I would describe it if these two were strangers. But since they're not strangers, you can go forward with something like that. So long answer, but I think that it's going to be a case-by-case basis for every developer and publisher. If they have the next great video game, they're probably not going on Game Pass day and date anyway. And if they're a little bit more middle of the road, then maybe they're a little more reluctant to sign a marketing deal like this one because they want to put their Outriders type game directly on Game Pass.
You know, it's funny because I've been calling for a while. I mean, to your point, Hogue, we have rumors. We have seen rumors that Madden 22, FIFA 22, even the unbelievable Battlefield 6 going into Xbox Game Pass because, like you were saying, we feel like we're getting it for free, right? Like we honestly,
you already spent the money, right? Yeah,
right. My subscription is paid up until the end of 2022, and of course I'm going to re-up, even if when I look for deals. I'll wait for CD keys to drop a big deal during Black Friday, and I'll buy 6 or 7 of them, and I'll be paid up until 2025. Let's just say,
sure,
and that's fine. But my question moving forward is if Xbox Game Pass continues to pull in these, let's just say, for instance, and for argument's sake, that they do get FIFA, they do get Madden, they do get Battlefield 6. These are considered big AAA bombs.
Sure,
I think it's going to potentially open the door and even open the question with other developers to say, hey, if we have a game that has microtransactions, like all three of these games will, right?
Yes.
We know that someone that thinks they got the game for free is more likely to sign with us and put their game in because they know and they haven't their finance people are like, well, you know, we're probably going to make a ton of money on microtransactions. You might as well give up the prize up front and we'll get on the back end, we'll win. What are your thoughts on that? On other big third parties following the suits of, like, let's say, an EA?
Well, Electronic Arts clearly has a close relationship with Microsoft on this, right? I mean, they have the EA Games stuff directly in there. We just had an announcement yesterday where FPS Boost is being supported by Electronic Arts. That has to be approved by them for everything but Mass Effect, for reasons that are just, you know, who knows why that might be. Anyway, so yeah, the connection with Electronic Arts is there. But certainly if your finance bottom line in something like FIFA, where Ultimate Team is driving your revenue ship, it makes significant sense to get it out in front of as many eyeballs as possible. This is why MLB took the reins and made sure that the show was on Game Pass, is because they're most interested in that brand Q score, right? They want more people talking about baseball and didn't want it limited to Sony anymore. And there are pros and cons to go with that as part of any kind of conversation. But I think that the more microtransaction oriented you are, the more attractive something like Game Pass is, because it's clearly a very effective, as you said, marketing avenue, right? Outriders, I don't think gets to where it was getting in terms of things like Steam sales if it doesn't have those Game Pass announcements and the backing of Microsoft and Xbox going out with those kinds of things. It's just proven to be a very good way to tell folks that your game exists, is to be available over here, even if the person that finds out that your game exists has to buy it for full price on some place like Steam. So all of these things are constantly being evaluated by these companies. They're constantly being evaluated by Microsoft in terms of how much of an advance they have to give, how much enticement they have to give. So I think it's really interesting from the consumer perspective. We haven't seen it kind of happen yet, but there is one concern with something like Game Pass, which is that, okay, do games, whether it's Madden or FIFA or something more middle level or even indie, start to lean towards microtransactions? And do we have a kind of mobilification of the games market with Game Pass driving the ship somewhat? I mean, I think that's worthwhile to watch as well, but certainly it's proven to be a great boon for developers and publishers all around.
Absolutely. And once again, fantastic points. Absolutely fantastic. Gaz, our second lawyer, you've been dropping a lot of sauce around the world as of late. Your last couple of videos, dude, I mean, have been nothing short of literally laugh out loud riots. The one with the fake oh my god, what is his name? Jason Schreier was dude.
Getting punched in the face. I'm gonna get sued one day.
He basically who knew that Jason Schreier was such an MMA kind of a guy, because he took you down very easily.
Man, as you can see from that video, I'm so out of shape. It's actually embarrassing. But I will bring it back.
I definitely appreciate that. But Gaz, listen, we got to get into the leaked documentation. You heard what Hogue has to say. You obviously are with our lawyer. A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't actually know that until you said it out loud. I was like, wow, I had no idea. But my question to you is, when you look at this contract, it was signed over a year ago. I think that the conversation is much different in 2021 April. I think that when you look at something like Outriders, I think when you look at something like, even, for instance, there's a Rainbow game that released that they made an announcement. I got to find the tweet in front of me. As a matter of fact, Pong Soul brought this to my attention yesterday, and I'm going to see if I can pull it up because it was pretty impressive. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. Rain on Your Parade. Now, this is a game. This is very indie. This is the tweet directly from Unbound Creations, who are the creators of this game. They announced that last week, less than a week, hashtag Rain on Your Parade already has over 150,000 players thanks to Xbox Game Pass. What a mind blowing result. They continue with, thank you everyone for checking it out and sharing all your silly cloud faces with us. We're absolutely floored, in all caps, by the reception to our indie game on Xbox. Now, listen, this may not happen for every game. But when you look at what Microsoft is doing, you read this contract. First of all, the contract in itself, whether it be fake, or real, or somewhere in the middle, is another black eye for Sony, at least in my opinion. It's more bad PR. You have been reporting on the bad PR on Game On Daily, and you haven't been wrong to say so, because quite frankly, it has been nothing short of, like, where is the Sony from last gen? Well, they're under new management and they're not doing that good of a job, to be honest with you. First of all, what are your thoughts on the contract? And I really want to reiterate the question to you. Can you see anyone wanting to sign with Sony when Game Pass apparently is a very lucrative way to do business, especially because they get the big cash, they get the big bag of cash for the game, but they also get the advertisement, not only from Microsoft, but people like us who talk about it?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are multiple things to consider here. I think Hogue actually touched upon this and really was quite on the ball when saying Outriders was the outlier in all of this. And it really depends on the type of game and how you quantify success. If you're willing to forsake the day one full price costs of profits that you would anticipate to make on a high level game, then and monthly active users or player numbers are your main metric for success, because you think long term, you're assessing long term engagement, then for instance, absolutely, Game Pass is going. The value proposition of that is really high, but it's really. I mean, you can't have a one umbrella rule for every game. Every game is going to be different. The type of game, what is the audience you're looking for, what are you trying to achieve? Outriders, it's a really clever move in my opinion, irrespective of whether or not it would have maybe arguably had eaten away at its potential profits or sales day one on Xbox. A game like that thrives from having higher player numbers, and the long-term gains from that, you can't, in my opinion, in this day and age, particularly now with subscription services coming to the fore, you cannot deny the importance of those. I don't think it's. I also, despite my theatrics with the Source, I will say, I don't think it's that. It's that doom and gloom and doom. Sorry, for Sony. Sony. They've immediately already this week have come out to say, like, they will be supporting more smaller, diverse games, and they are reacting. The biggest problem with them has always been the lack of communication, and they last generation had a very easy job because they had the gen handed over to them on the silver platter with the Xbox that was
Indeed, yeah,
badly fumbling around with its own mixed messaging, that all that damage just served to actually enhance the value of PlayStation's messaging, which then led to its fan base then doing all the marketing for it, because all they had to do was point at Xbox and there it is. That's our marketing. Heck, you could even see it from Shuhei Yoshida and Andrew House. This is how we share games. That kind of sums up, that little video, that 3-second or whatever clip of him just handing over a physical game over, kind of signifies that gen. But Sony had it easy last gen, whereas Microsoft spent the entirety of that gen course correcting, making mistakes, even with their increased discourse, with their talking on. There were many times Albert Pinella, if you remember, was really vocal. He was on forums and NeoGAF to the point where he shot himself in the foot so many times that he was just banned from talking until ultimately he stopped. He stopped because he obviously got a memo from Microsoft. They just said, just stop, man. You're doing too much damage right now. And it was really embarrassing because he was wrong ultimately. We can go back and retrospectively say he was wrong with things like the cloud and really putting an emphasis on that. And Microsoft, but with Phil Spencer and with some actual moves to back them up, sorted that out. That 2018, so the first was the backwards compatibility. That was something that was seen as an impossibility. That happened. Okay, you got some goodwill back. Then the 2018 studio acquisitions, which is your biggest critique, that came back. And Microsoft really, they struggled, and I document. But Game On Daily, before it was a news aggregation site, was like a journalist site or like a slash blog post. And we saw it. I called it out before the Xbox Series X was launched. Like, this is going to be a generation. Either Microsoft spend learning the hard lessons and then fixing their errors, fundamental problems, or they will sink. And they did that. So PlayStation's had it easy. And now, if you saw it already this week, Herman Hulst came back and said, no, we are supporting the more diverse games.
Yeah.
And like you don't see that. That's uncharacteristic of Sony. So when they are feeling the pinch.
That's also to that point. That's a great point. On the back heels of that, they pulled their closing of the PlayStation Vita and PS3 store right before that announcement, and again, very uncharacteristic. But I think that they had to bend the knee, as King would say, because of the pressure of the community.
Exactly. This is my last source video, despite me sweating and spitting all over the place, was saying the exact same point. Sony can come back and walk into the stage like it's Vince McMahon and think it's going to be okay, but it didn't do that. It actually bent the knee, and that in itself is a big shift in that. And just by doing that, it's gained a lot of goodwill. Yes, you'll get the U-turns. It's exactly what happened with Xbox. You'll get the U-turns. They all communicate more, but it's just the industry normalizing. And I don't think, like Jim Ryan, I made fun of him saying he can't hold a controller.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just maybe the photographer told him to hold it down that way so that you can see the light bar or something. I don't know, but he's not a gamer. You ask him, someone asked him, what do you do in your spare time? He didn't even mention gaming. So it's like, okay, he gives you that Don Matrick vibe. But, but not to damage limitation on Sony's part on this podcast. I will say, though, that, Xbox Game Pass is a big worry. It's a big worry because it's got the financial might of Microsoft behind it. And Sony can't match fire with that. They've already said that. Do expect some kind of U-turn on it. But Sony have, and David Jaffe, he's got contacts on it, said they have something in the works. He knows what it is. And obviously we can't comment on speculation on what that might even be. But don't write out. See, you say your original question, and I went on a long tangent, but you asked me, like, if you were a publisher or dev, would you be even bothering entertaining? Or not, it's not exactly how you said it, but essentially the point was, would you entertain something on PlayStation or their services when you've got Microsoft with all this goodwill and 23 million people is subscribed to it? And that's a really good question, but PlayStation still has the world's mindshare, and unless that's changed in areas like Asia, Far East Asia, and a lot of Europe, then that don't expect a massive fundamental shift. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is ultimately this is going to be, and I've said this before, the most competitive, fiercely fought battle this generation. That is going to be such a good generation for us gamers, because these companies are not going to cannibalize each other, but they're really going to stretch their limits to get that mind share. PlayStation is now communicating it has to do more. Game Pass has spoken, 23 million subs and counting. That's spoken. So, and Microsoft has the studios. Microsoft, to me, has the more exciting IPs. All the games that are coming out to me are the single player games. That's great. I PlayStation. I can't wait for Eternal. That's more exciting than anything Xbox has churned out up to date this generation. Fine, but the long term, Xbox is going to kill it, in my opinion. But Yeah, it's an amazing generation. I don't think we should look at it as black and white. But this whole legal point was really interesting, and I'm really glad that we've got two lawyers here with different jurisdictions to talk about it. And just to very quickly touch upon that contract, because I know, Hogue, you have to go, and I'm actually kind of skiving off work a little bit here. Thank God for working from home.
You and me both.
Yeah. If only our clients knew. You know, you actually, I watched a bit of a video, just managed to catch it before I came on here, and you're right. And in our Twitter conversations, you're correct. We deal with this. Like, I work for a mid-sized firm in central London, but you see Magic Circle law firms all the time churn out contracts with inconsistent definitions or definitions coming up later after that. Literally just before I came onto the show, I was looking at transfer for a property transfer, and I was thinking, how the hell did you define that? How did you design that? You're probably getting paid 3 times more than I am. And
it's human beings all the way down. That's what I always say. Absolutely.
Exactly. And that agreement looks real to me. I mean, it's definitely drafted with either based on a template or someone with some legal knowledge. But I think people are overstating some of the points. Like they were like really the tech. So very quickly, because I know I'm very conscious of the fact that I've done a VJ here and taken over the show. But let me just very, very, very quickly. So this point about technical parity. Technical parity in this clause 1.4 of that contract wasn't even defined. And it's so vague that if the intention of the parties was to essentially maintain technical parity, that irrespective of the pre-existing relationship between the two, unless they've already set the standard and precedent that, hey, by the way, you downgrade our games, which is not the case, then you would expect that to be defined. But even then, if you were to define that and have that word more stringently defined and sort that out, it would set an awful precedent and would dangerously creep into things like anti-competitive measures. I don't know, Hogue, and I don't know, Hogue, I'm in comp prop, so comp prop is really boring. A lot of contracts as well, but I don't know. General contract and anti-compete laws, I'm not au fait with them. But surely that you would expect that to be quite dangerously veering into anti-competitive measures, no? If you were going to mandate this kind of technical imposition.
100%. No, and one of the reasons that, in my view, that parenthetical exists, I know people aren't looking at the document right in front of them, but it says technical parity within the limits of the consoles, within the limits of the platform, is entirely designed that, hey, if you're a third-party judge looking at this, we're not trying to hurt other people's stuff. We're just trying to make sure we're kept on the same level. So it's just as a matter of, hey, you're using 100% of the PlayStation 5. You're not doing something weird here to hurt that parity. And that parenthetical to me is read entirely for this winds up in a litigation. Hey, we're not trying to be anti-competitive in the nature of what we're doing. And people just skip right over that. And you bring up the great point, which it's not defined. So much of that document reads as, we know what we're talking about. We've done this for 20 years. And the difficulty there is, if it's real and it leaked out and third-party people from Twitter and elsewhere are reading it, it doesn't matter. It's a meeting of the minds of what we meant by this thing. And I really do understand how people get there and say, oh, they're going to hurt these other versions. And
they only read one part of it. That's the problem.
They read one part of it, and human beings are human beings. There's terms of art in law and the way these things are constructed that don't read as real English so much. So I don't blame anybody for it, but you look at something like that and say you're reading it in the worst possible sense. And hey, bad actors could use it that way. So I don't want to take that away from you. But it's pretty standard, and you're reading it in a way that I don't think is the intent. And Capcom and Sony know what they're talking about. This is written like, hey, we can do this on the back of an envelope because this isn't our first rodeo. We probably just wrote this contract, give or take, for Monster Hunter World or whatever, recently. So we've done this before.
You see deals like this in multiplayer games. You see deals like this in typical like time exclusive deals as well. You see stuff like this all the time.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's just a normal marketing deal. I think the new part that people rightly pointed out is that the Game Pass, that you won't be on a different streaming or a different subscription service is newish because those services are newish. So I don't think we had seen it in black and white before, but everybody is being silly if they thought that marketing deals where either money is changing hands, which is not the case here, as described, or things of value are being given. I know people say, oh, well, Capcom went cheap because they're just getting advertising on the PlayStation Network and the PlayStation blog and the PlayStation YouTube channel and the PlayStation social media. And it's like, I don't think you realize what that's worth. And that comes right off their bottom line for their budget. So that was money they were going to spend that they don't have to spend. But PlayStation is also giving up something because that's space that they could have sold that they can't sell. The one thing I brought up, I think in my video, but it might have been in a different podcast, was, hey, you know, who gets not exactly burned, but who is definitely going to get less advertising than they would have on this is Returnal. So you talk about opportunity cost. Returnal comes out a week before Resident Evil. They would have had some of those slots that Sony is giving to Capcom for $5 million in value. So, I mean, real things have changed hands, but in an also real sense, you can do it in 10 pages because you work together for 20 years and because, well, nobody actually gets wiring instructions. No money is going directly from one account to the other, and things tend to be a little lighter when that happens.
Hey, Hoax, do you think that's why they're relying on the preview of Returnal? Like, you notice how there was a lot more previews for Returnal?
Oh, I mean, I think well, first of all, I think Returnal appears to have turned out even better than Sony probably dreamed. Everybody I talk to is very, very excited about it next week, including myself. So I mean, I think they got a tiger by the tail, and I'm rooting for Housemarque really, really bad. I love those guys, but and I love the games they put out.
Sacrificial lamb, though, when you think about it, right? Like, there's
because they've given up this advertising. Absolutely, they have to judge these kinds of things because being associated with Resident Evil, one of the historic kind of modern video game names, is important. It's valuable to Sony. That's why you enter into a deal like that.
Yeah, that's the point. Like, that's what I kind of took from it. Like, even when they were celebrating their anniversary, it was all strictly PlayStation devs at the entire thing. And immediately it's like, okay, as soon as you read the patent, or as soon as you read the clause, they're like, well, this is anti-consumer. Like, well, it's not really that. It's just a typical marketing deal. This is what they were doing. They were doing from the beginning.
Well, the thing, anti-consumer comes up a lot, right? And I would say I divide it into two kind of spheres. As a gamer, and I said this on my video as well, I don't blame anybody for saying, oh, I can't get it on Game Pass. Nuts. I paid for that. That would have been great. And as a consumer, 100%. It would have been great. I love that I didn't have to pay for Outriders again, even though I'm enjoying that game a lot. So anti-consumer is a kind of milky, morassful term because, everything that you do to kind of try to enhance your platform on an individualized basis could be read as anti-consumer. But as I think was said as part of this cast already, it's a really good thing for gamers in the aggregate for these two titans to be going at each other full force. I agree. And since the early 2000s, it's always been the question. Microsoft is orders of magnitude bigger than any other video game company player. And if they ever opened up the wallet, wow, what could happen? And they mostly played it close to the vest for 20 years. Yeah. And then you got Bethesda and Game Pass and everything else. It's like, oh, Microsoft, they've gotten the word from their enterprise folks that pay the bills that the wallets are open. They're allowed to try to go after all this. Yeah. And that's great because Sony's put on their back heels and they have to figure out how to make things better for gamers. And I love it. I think this generation has the chance of being the best ever because you've got two different business models going at each other in a way that could actually be fairly symbiotic, in which gamers just benefit. Nobody dies, and the pie just increases in size. I'm thrilled to watch this unfold.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's going to be amazing. Let them two fight, spill their blood for our benefit. It's fine.
That's the main thing we've all been asking for the longest is competition, and they're finally giving you proper competition. So it's like, I don't know why would anybody be upset about it.
Well, I mean, listen, if you look at some of the things that Sony's doing, like I said, the leaked video aspect, that's reactionary, right? That's a reactionary move. That isn't like look, here's the thing. They're offering old films. Now, if you didn't see Venom, if you didn't see Zombieland, good on you. You're going to get that for the price of your subscription to PlayStation Plus, which is great. PlayStation Now, not what I want, is why I don't subscribe to it. I don't know if it's ever going to be what I want, but I think that hopefully. A title like Returnal, and again, I'm going to wait on it. I love Housemarque. I'm not spending $75 on a game, and because not because it doesn't look good, not because I'm afraid to waste money. It's a roguelite. I'm not a big fan of roguelites. Sure. It's just not my thing. So I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna wait for a sale.
I told you though. I told you, bro. That $70 price tag was going to hurt what? New IPs.
Yes, and that's one of those instances where, you know, if they had a Game Pass-esque service where this went in there, and let's say, for instance, someone like me who buys all Sony first party, and that's a proven fact, I go and I play Returnal. And I'm like, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's not like the worst roguelites that I've played that I'm not a fan of because I like Housemarque. Well, now I'm going to drop the money because I want to support this developer. And I think that because of what Hogue said and what Gaz said about Resident Evil actually taking some of the spotlight away from a new IP, a first party IP like Returnal. I mean, listen, are we expecting 10 million sales of this game? I don't know.
See, I don't know about 10. Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to really estimate.
10 million PlayStation 5s out in the wild, are there? I don't know.
No, it's less than it's less, like around 6 something. It's like some change.
Yeah, and see, that's the other thing that we have to talk about. This game, it's getting advertisement pulled. It's a new IP. It's $75. But here is the real kicker. There are not enough PlayStation 5s because this is a PS5 only game. And that may be the problem. So the question that I ask is, are all 6,000 people that bought PlayStation 5 that are considered the hardcore of the hardcore are going to buy this game? I don't know. That's going to be a fantastic question.
Well, see, one of the reasons I love Housemarque, and you know, I clarify this for my viewers and commenters, Sony doesn't own them. They have a very close relationship with them, is that Housemarque now for a couple generations has been the company that Sony has gone to show off their platform. I think they get some leeway on their sales overall because it's designed to be one of their sales pitches. If you remember back in the 90s when you got your 3D graphics card and you had these tiny games that were terrible just to show off how reflective looked. Housemarque has had that, and Sony, I think, has loved them for it, Resogun and everything else, because they are immediately sexy, they are immediately saleable, and they immediately show off what the PlayStation 5 can do. One of the things I really enjoyed about the previews this week was how so many people said this feels like maybe the first next-gen game. That we've gotten awesome performance and transitions, and I've loved it, the last couple months, but that Returnal really feels like it uses the PlayStation 5. I'm eager to try it because I think that's great. And Sony, it's great for advertising. Of course, they can't fill the retail avenues at this point, but it's certainly what is intended to do. So in terms of Housemarque and Sony's relationship, it would surprise me if they need to, hit bogeys that you wouldn't expect. If they sold a couple million, I think they'd be doing all right. But it's an interesting relationship between those two companies. And I think that it's one of the reasons why they were okay moving forward with Resident Evil. Also because in 2020 and 2021, I don't think any publisher, developer, or platform holder knows what the release dates are going to be for anything. I don't think anybody could have necessarily told you in May of last year that Resident Evil and Returnal would be done at about the same time.
Right.
Yeah. Great point.
COVID-19 pushed everything back. So yeah.
Yeah, anywhere between 6, 9, and 12 months on many games. Many games that we're talking about now, many games that we don't even know that exist or where they are in development have been definitely hampered. Hogue, listen, we're closing in on 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you want to hang out to hear the other panel's opinion, or do you gotta go?
No, I'm going to go at 11.
Okay.
And, you can say bye to me or however at that point. Unfortunately, I got a law. You got to keep the lights on and the children fed. But I'm more than happy to listen to everybody else's thoughts, and then I could just say bye in 15 minutes or so.
That's great, and actually we'll do a proper outro for you, get you out of here, so people could definitely check out your channel. I want to go to Dreadpool on this. Dreadpool, we were having a magnificent conversation prior to everyone getting here, before the show went live. I'm interested to get your opinion on this. Again, you've heard what Hogue had to say, you've heard what Gaz had to say. These are lawyers, right? But I think that we tend to forget that even though the analytics and the truths of the deal were explained to us. I think that we forget that as just gamers who are not attorneys. I think that this is going to somehow hurt Sony, and there's going to be a lot of questions. Again, negative press. Some people are like, well, bad press is still good press because you're talking about a company. Not in video games, and certainly not for Sony with the way that they have been handling their business. It has been, pardon my friends, a shitstorm, and not in a good way. And I'm interested to get your opinion on this, on whether or not other companies would sign on a deal like this, or more importantly, has the bad press put Sony in a bit of a tight situation?
I think Dreadpool's not there.
Oh, Dreadpool, are you there?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking at the wrong mute button. I have two different ones. So, okay. Well, it unfortunately, bad publicity is always going to be bad. Good you know how they say bad publicity is good publicity. Like
Not all the time.
it is, but it's not all the time. You know what I mean? And when you have bad publicity that shows you in a bad light, that's not good. I mean, yeah, it keeps you in the limelight, but it's not always good. It's one thing if you're trying to get a next gig, you know what I mean? But if they were trying to do something good out of it and it just happened to be something bad and then they were able to spin it, then then it's good publicity. They haven't been able to spin this. They haven't said nothing, and it's very unusual for this, and I'm still stuck on the parody thing, right? How we everybody likes to look at things out of context. We're not lawyers, so everybody just automatically assumes that this is how this is. They want to degrade the Xbox version back down to the PlayStation version. That doesn't mean that, but that's what a lot of people that I've read in the community are saying, and it just kind of ticked in my head. I was just mid-drive last night while I was working, and it just like popped up in my head again, and I was thinking about that. I was like, that could also backfire on them, because if they want parity across the board to keep it from, for each version being the best that it can. I was watching somebody playing Returnal, and they had the vibration on the controller, and you can hear the raindrops, right? So when you're the raindrops on the controller, and it literally sounded and it looked like it felt like the raindrops, individual ones. And I'm like, if that's the case, then you can't use the DualSense. You just limited yourself, and it's just stuff that's popping in my head like that. But yeah, it's unless you nip something like this in the bud, it's just always gonna look bad. Microsoft never speaks up unless it's definitely bad for them. Then they try to like nip it down, like, shut up. This isn't it. Sony usually make sure that they let you know, hey, this is what's coming up. This is what's going on. They didn't even like pretend like it never happened. They just went silent.
So if I could just jump in 1 second. I mean, you talk about the DualSense and the raindrops. I saw that video too. That's where the material console limitations language pops up. If there are differences in the hardware structure of the two entities, my reading of that provision, and again, we're all outside parties here, is that doesn't prevent you from utilizing the specific aspects. A number of people asked me, for instance, could you quick resume Resident Evil? Because it says technical parity and there's no quick resume on PlayStation. To my reading, yes, if you wanted to implement it, it's up to Capcom, because that's something that the hardware does in and of itself. Same with 1440 at 60, that kind of thing. The technical parity is generally, hey, we're gonna give it unlocked, ray traced, and let the chips fall where they may.
Aesthetic, right?
Yeah, and the aesthetic, you could get into texture packs and things, and I don't know whether Capcom does it that way, but just in general, the option is unlocked, ray traced, and whatever happens. The Xbox runs it at this frame rate, and the PlayStation runs it at this frame rate. You're trying to optimize for both, but you've had technical parity because it's the same kind of set of things. It's not designed to keep the Xbox back, other than, as I also mentioned in my video, the nature of a marketing contract and saying, hey, you're only ever going to show the Sony version and this kind of thing, which is normal and 100% above board. from Sony's perspective, does tend to make it the lead platform, does tend to make it, hey, we're going to put more resources into that, not for any other reason, but that's the one that we're advertising. That's the one people are going to see. We're trying to get eyeballs in the door ourselves, right? But it doesn't necessarily hold things back. The Cyberpunk financials came out yesterday, and they had the Microsoft deal, and pretty famously so. Like, Microsoft was all over everything for Cyberpunk. And even then, you go and you look at the sales done for that game, and with it coming off the Sony PlayStation Network like 6 days after it was released, they still sold more on the PlayStation 4. And so marketing deals are always kind of weighed on both sides of the equation, from both the hardware platform side and the developer side, because you still have situations like that where Microsoft paid a pretty penny to get that marketing deal, and they still sold more on Sony.
Yeah, I don't look at those as like the be all of end all. I look at them just like the typical, like kind of like the typical little advantage. That's all. Like, this system gets this type of perk over that one type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Sony is obviously the console to get. Everybody knows this, the console to get for the community. So it made sense that sales wise it would be better on that side versus with Xbox. But again, like, a lot of people typically get strung out when they see like these marketing deals. They see like you just said, the parody clause. They see all this stuff. Like, it's really nothing at all.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And just like I said, you go into it and you start over analyzing all this stuff, And thank you for making sure that what I said wasn't like actual factual, but you start going in there and you start like making stuff up in your head because you're overthinking this stuff.
For sure. But I don't blame gamers for that.
No.
I'm a contract lawyer. I do transactions for my job. So, I look at these kinds of things kind of differently, and I hopefully can bring some of that information to YouTube and Twitter and elsewhere. But I don't blame gamers and customers on the Sony side or the Xbox side looking at it and saying, what is happening here? If this agreement is true, should I be concerned and going through that process? Because, as I said, there's a distinction between anti-consumer and pro-business and all these various things. I think Sony's justified. I don't think it is that big of a deal in the long run, but there's no question that it's restricting certain things that might have happened without a contract like that. And it's the same on the other side. And that on a narrow focus can be deemed anti-consumer. On an aggregate focus, I think is good, because you want them fighting with most of their tools at their disposal.
No, great point. You know what, Crow? Let's get your outro out here, because Gaz has to go as well, and then we can get into Crispy, we can get into Mr. Bed, but we can get into BitCloud. First of all, Hogue, I want you to tell people about your channel. I think it's fantastic. I think that what you do over there is important, because you really give us an understandable perspective of what goes on with the law aspect, which sometimes goes over my head. I mean, I'm ex-law enforcement, but I don't understand, business law. So it's still a different animal. Tell everyone about your channel, brother.
Sure. So the Hogue Law YouTube channel is primarily focused on a show we call Virtual Legality, which, as I describe it, is the business and law of primarily video games, but also music and movies and television. We talk about Sony and Spider-Man changing hands and things that people are reading about, whether it's on Kotaku or Polygon or IGN or GameSpot or anywhere else that they're interested in, that maybe could have a little bit more meat put on the bone in terms of what's actually happening. We covered the Bethesda deal a lot, how when they announced it in September, that's not the end of the road. In fact, it's kind of the beginning of sorting out some of the processes that have to take place. And of course, that was only closed months and months after the fact. So we were able to say, hey, no, IGN says they own Bethesda now. They don't. Let's talk about what that means and have those kinds of conversations, hopefully in an educational and informational and entertaining way, to get more and better information out there. So, I mean, that's really what Virtual Legality is all about. As I think this panel has said, Sony's been very good for Virtual Legality for the past couple of weeks. Every single day, Days Gone was headline news for two straight weeks. Who could have?
And we're going to be talking about that at the second half of the show. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I will try to tune in while I handle some client work. So we talk about all sorts of stuff. And we love to have new conversations and comments. And one of our taglines there, you'll see on shirts and things, is reasonable minds can differ. I often think that the internet and social media in general tends to devolve into ad hominem personal attacks way too often, console warriors, and obviously politics and bigger, more important things. And one of the things that we really try to focus on is you can think through something, you can disagree with me and anybody else in the comments, you can do it in the right way, and we can talk through, and the conversation is the fun part. It's how we learn, it's how we grow, and that's what Virtual Legality is about. It's youtube.com/Hoglaw. You can also follow me for video game stuff, sure, business stuff, Michigan Wolverine stuff, big Michigan fan, on my Twitter at Hoglaw, HOEGLAW, same spelling for the YouTube channel. And I welcome everybody. Please come check it out.
Well, thanks so much for being here, Hogue, and we're definitely going to get you back on the show in a future episode. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend, brother. Thank you.
You too, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Very much appreciated.
No problem. Thank you, brother.
It was awesome talking to you, Hulk.
Take care, man.
All right, so Gaz, you got to get out of here also. Okay, so you brought a medium amount of sauce. We got to get you on a 2-hour show so we can get a barrel of sauce. But I'll take what I can get. No doubt about that. Tell everyone about Game On Daily. What you do with Izza over there. What you got going on this week. What new guests you got coming on? Because you've been having some incredible guests. And more importantly, where could people reach out to you and potentially hashtag sauce you to death on Twitter?
Sorry I have to leave it. Fridays are really bad in lawyer world, so much. I've got so many emails. I'm just constantly got anxiety. But thank you for having me. So you can find us at GameOnDaily.com. Everyone needs to register and use that. Not enough people using it. All the news is compounded there from all different sources. Check it out. We've got a YouTube channel. Who has the balls to punch Jason Schreier in the face? We do.
Nobody but you guys. Yes.
Just check it out. By the way, we do it in jest. It's all
it's all fun and games until someone gets punched in the face. That's the reality of it.
Exactly. No, and it's really just the idea is to have a laugh about content. So that's when I really create content, is to make people smile. So hopefully people found it funny and enjoyed it. And there's more to come. There's a lot more to come. We've got pages upon pages of skits that we're planning. So we just came out. We haven't come out of lockdown, but things started opening up and we started filming. And tomorrow, funnily enough, you've got Dirt 5 on. We've got the technical director behind Dirt 5 coming on as a guest. So you've heard it here first. So he's going to be on tomorrow. We've got a good friend Quest Mode as well coming on to get, and he's a primarily PlayStation gamer. But the tech director of Dirt 5 isn't just going to talk about EA and its acquisition of Codemasters. He's also going to talk about his take on the industry, what PlayStation are doing, what Microsoft's doing, what Xbox is doing, and Game Pass and all that stuff. So I'm really excited to have him on board. Great. It'll be a great show. Hopefully you guys come check that out. Check out Game On Daily, all one word. Thank you so much. Love your chat. Chat's been swimming in the sauce. I brought medium sauce because I'm just mindful of Hogue was here. I didn't want to, he's a great guest as well. It's just good to get a variety of experiences. And I was also mindful that if I put too much sauce, I might set fire to Dreadpool's massive beard. But thank you for having me.
Well, thanks so much for being here, brother. We'll definitely see you back another time. And obviously love what you guys do and what you have been doing on your channel. We'll get you back when you got some free time.
Thank you so much, and sorry to leave so early.
No, that's quite all right, brother. Listen, real life takes over for podcasting, but thanks again for being here, and I'll talk to you soon, guys.
Peace.
Why'd you punch? He left. I was gonna say, why'd you punch him? I learned it from watching Game On Daily.
Well, there you go.
Boy.
Crispy, I want to get your opinion on this, and then we're going to get to BitCloud and then Mr. Bad Bit, and then we're gonna be talking some Knights of the Old Republic remake confirmed, and we're also going to be talking about what the hell is Jim Ryan saying and what is he doing? Mr. Bad Bit, you mentioned that yesterday that you don't really know what he's doing because they've been so vague, but we do have some new information as to more third-party exclusives, something that they were notorious for in the last gen that worked well for them. But I don't know if that's going to be the case this gen, especially when we are still battling a pandemic. People are trying to figure out a way to still afford gaming, and Microsoft is doing a better job on allowing people to game affordably. And unfortunately, Sony is not, and it doesn't look like they're going to be doing anything to help that along. But Crispy, let's get your opinion on this, and then obviously after I get everyone's opinion, I'll jump into the super chats because we've got a load of them. Crispy, what are your thoughts regarding the bad press that has come out of this leaked document? And again, from a logistics point of view, thanks to Gaz from Game On Daily, and of course Hogue from Hogue Law, we have a better understanding of it. But the average person, they don't watch these YouTube videos. They see what they see. They read what they read. And again, bad press for Sony on top of already the incredible amount of bad press. Does this hurt?
As far as just a normal gamer, not being a lawyer / gamer, yeah, it does hurt. I think a lot of people took it the way most people did, and that part of this legal document, which we don't know if it's real or not, we probably will never know. But it looks legit, So you look at it and you say, as a gamer standpoint, you read that part, and if you don't understand the legal jargon, then you're kind of just sitting there like, well, what is this? Are you saying that you're going to hold back other consoles? So regardless of the truth of it, here's the point. People, stop comparing graphics. Stop comparing everything between the two consoles and play the freaking games, because we're getting to the point where all I see is somebody saying one thing, another person saying another. And you have these people that join this person on one side and the other, and we're just all sitting here, and it's like, let's just watch the train wreck. You know what I mean? Stop. Like, these companies do on the back end whatever they want. They are not our friends. Okay, they are here to make money, and at least it seems like Sony's like, hey, we woke up. You know what I mean? Sorry, we were sleeping for a little bit, but we woke up. And you could say what you want, but all this, this stuff that's come out after this document got supposedly leaked, at least Sony's kind of responding the way they can. Not acknowledging it's there, but, starting to hit down some of the narratives that have come out even before the document leak. So at least they're responding, and that's what we wanted to see. And regardless of it being real or not, it just doesn't look good. You could tell me, hey, it means this and this. It just doesn't look good from a gamer standpoint. And and this is not to say that Microsoft, we can't have a document come in a couple months that you go and say, oh, this isn't cool either. But the one thing Microsoft has going for them is if they absorb it into Game Pass, especially being a AAA, generally they're going to allow them to, release it on other consoles. And I think that's where Microsoft can kind of get away with things that, Sony might not be able to if they're going to have a timed exclusivity or something like that. So you just stop arguing all the time about stupid stuff that, could legally be bound in a contract that you ain't never supposed to see. And sometimes these things happen, but I'm baffled that, it got leaked, and the wording, the vagueness, it goes right with their relationship with Capcom. I mean, they've had a relationship forever. But I also said that, Resident Evil, I don't think Microsoft would have spent the money to put it on Game Pass. I think they're working on their own single player games, and I think they're going to showcase those. And I think, they're going to go, you're going to see stuff that is multiplayer centric and casual gamer centric that, Microsoft's really going to go after.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. And only time is going to tell. BitCloud, are you back, brother?
BitCloud.
All right, so maybe he stepped away. Oh, there you go. Okay, so BitCloud, let's get your opinion on this. Again, this is a situation where, like, I think Crispy really broke it down in a way that makes sense. If you're not a gaming lawyer, if you're not a diehard gamer, this is bad metrics. This is bad optics. This is the kind of press that nobody wants to see, because there's a super chat in here. I got to see if I could find it real quick, because it's really, really relevant to the conversation. Let me see if I could just grab it real quick, because it's important. Let me see, where is it? Okay. Pixelbit G drops a $5 super chat, and I'll get to the other ones in a second, but I wanna read this one. He says Capcom has a history of gimping Xbox versions. Review Xbox One X Monster Hunter versus PlayStation Pro version, as well as other Capcom games, or did we all forget? And again, whether or not the elite contract regarding parity means simply the way Hogue broke it down, the way he understood it, or they are paying to have their version be no less than the Microsoft version, is still a conversation that gamers are going to have. It's going to put a negative light on Sony again, on top of what they have done. Now, granted, they have done a little shimmying, right? Yeah. They pulled back with the PS3 and Vita. Okay, so they did a Microsoft. They waited a couple of days, and Jim Ryan actually went out there. That's how important the conversation was, right? And of course, to somewhat counteract the conversation of Game Pass, the leak, another bad leak about the movie thing, where a lot of people that used to condemn Microsoft for the TV thing, it seems like that was a very reactionary move to get Sony picture things in there. Now, granted, free is free. So if you're paying for a service and you're getting another additional bonus in regards to, let's say, free films you could watch, is it terrible? No, because you're not being charged anymore. It's the offerings, though, that I think that these films are old. And I don't know who hasn't seen them, but I have. So I'm not
Venom and a lot of that whole thing. I think it was a time thing, right? It wasn't like a time thing.
It's a year. It's a year. It's a year in Poland. We don't know if that's officially only in Poland, because again,
it is.
It is only in Poland.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're testing the waters there.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they got to really just throw some quality films in there, unless they're doing like something what they're doing with Netflix. You know how like Netflix is getting the Spider-Man license movies in there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they do something like that, then sure, that would add some more of a incentive to that. But to go back to what y'all said about this whole Perry situation, again, I agree with Hogue. Like, I don't see really it being a big deal. I don't think they're going to gimp it at all. But I understand why a lot of people think this. And the thing is, as well, if you look at just like the fine print of a lot of stuff that we already know about for Village, like first of all, they showed off the FPS that you're going to get in each particular mode. It's pretty much neck to neck the same on both platforms. Now, I said this in my video, though, and you made up a good point, too. Says in my video, I don't really see a big issue here until we see like the first video comparisons between both. That's the only way you're really going to tell if they did anything in particular. But from what I'm getting from this, it's going to be the exact same thing, like textures, the lighting, performance for what we're looking at here. Yeah, that's what I'm just thinking, because most of the stuff that we see here, Sony already alluded to that they had the marketing rights to the game. So that's pretty much basic stuff. I don't really see it. I don't see it as a doom and gloom. If it is a doom and gloom, then obviously, you know, we'll talk about it like, damn, that's a really dirty tactic that you just gimp the game on that side. Now, I think I don't know who said the super chat. He said that they have a history of gimping games. I don't think they see. The thing is about that, right? That comes down to the hardware itself. Sometimes the hardware just has like certain issues for the developer, and they can't produce their vision the way they want to. They just simply can't. Like PS5, we know. What do we know about PS5? I broke this down numerous times. PS5 is super accessible, so they have easier access to the tools.
Different systems have different bottlenecks, which
there you go.
Different games that utilize certain features
have different avenues and routes to get to it.
It's also different designs will limit which direction you use those features, or cannot use those features.
But I get it though. Trust me, I understand. People are scared. I mean, this is like the way games have been, like the way developers have been doing gamers for a while. You're kind of just like immediately put into that mindset, like, damn, I hope this game's not gimped. I really hope they don't screw with this game, but I don't think anybody has anything to worry about. It's gonna look good on both sides. It looks good. I don't know if y'all saw the demo. If anybody played the
Oh
demo?
no, I played it. I
Oh,
played it. Well, I didn't. I got my half an hour. I just got my COVID shot, so I felt like shit. And I was like, you know what? I only got 30 minutes to play. Let me just kind of power through it.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I mean, listen,
I'm loving what I'm seeing.
I cannot wait to actually, get the full game.
Oh yeah.
I was able to, and that's the thing. That's kind of the only thing that's coming out of these both Sony and Microsoft for this particular release that I'm excited about is I was only able to find the PlayStation 4 version of the collector's edition. It's the weirdest thing. I couldn't get it for Xbox. I couldn't get it for PS5. I got it for PS4 because I'm like, well, I really want the statue because I have the other ones and I'm a Resident Evil freak. So I would take the lower version. It turns out that the PlayStation 4 version is going to be upgraded to the PlayStation 5 version for free. So it's a winner, chicken boom dinner for me. So I'm very excited about that. But yeah, Big Cloud, you make a lot of great points as always, which is why we love having you on this show. I definitely want to get Mr. Badbit's opinion on this, and then we're going to get into super chats, and then we're going to get into some of the bigger topics because we are at the 11:11 mark. Mr. Badbit, first of all, welcome, Joe. Great to have you on each and every week. You are our resident, no pun intended, PR guy. So you understand from a PlayStation perspective as both a fan and as a marketing guy. And that's what I love about having you on the show. Mm-hmm. We understand that based on the way that the terminology is read, some people who read it wrong are suggesting that there's going to be a parody disparage, right? Okay, so we understand from thankfully having two lawyers on the show today, which is, again, thankfully there wasn't like a blood sport where they were killing each other. So that's so we all win for that. But with the bad PR that continues to happen to Sony, this is another shot in the gut. Now, whether we understand that it's not that the parody thing should not be an issue, but it's still a conversation people are having. Sure. Do you think that they need to tighten their belt, so to speak, regarding the negativity and the bad PR?
No, I actually don't see any bad PR out of any of this. I just see Twitter being Twitter, and just a lot of fanboys being confused and angry. So, like, for me personally, like, I read it and, you know, I was just like, oh, okay, so this is a marketing deal. And I like, actually, listen, I hate giving this son of a bitch credit, but like Luke Lore said it great on Twitter. It's like, looks like people are finding out what marketing agreements do, like firsthand. That's what this is. And so it's not bad PR for Sony. And I'd argue that if I'm an average consumer, I have no idea what's going on here. Like, I haven't even, if I'm the average of average consumers, I don't know what's like this Capcom thing. I know there'll be one person in the chat going, oh, I have a friend that's actually, but like in real world effects, most people just look at the trailers going, oh, I want to buy that, and then just buy it. You know, I think we got to understand we are 1% of the gaming industry. Yep. Right? We are 1%.
Yes, I would say that. Yeah, we're very small. We are definitely the minority in the gaming community. Yeah.
And so like so even, you know, even at that point, like Sony doesn't need to say anything here because there's nothing to say. It's this business agreement. They both shake hands on it, and that's pretty much what it is. It's no bad PR. It is something that got leaked out because of hackers for the Capcom leak. But even like real or not, it's fine. You know, I would be very surprised if I see an average consumer reading this going, oh, I'm not buying a PlayStation now, these sons of guns and whatever have you. Because like, look, I mean, you could just take a look at the horrible PR, absolutely atrocious PR that's coming out of Amazon with what's going on in certain areas, in certain facilities, and legally what's going on there. It's very public. But guess what? Did y'all hear about it? Right?
Right.
Nobody, right? Crispy, did you hear what's going on in Amazon right now?
No,
not really.
No, right? Like they're totally fudging votes to get unionization. You haven't heard that.
Yep.
It's a really scummy tactic that they're doing. Nobody knows that drivers at Amazon are peeing into cups. We're all buying just to make deliveries. We're all still buying Amazon stuff. So this
Yeah.
stuff
Say it with me, Joe. Fake outrage.
is I wouldn't say it's fake outrage. I think it's misplaced because we're not lawyers. I've read enough of those documents to never want to read those documents ever
Right.
again.
Exactly.
So, like, for the average consumer, for people who never like took any type of like law class or whatever, you're reading that and you're like, what? I don't even know what's going on. You tell me. So I don't see this as a big deal. It's
Yeah.
just is what it
That's
is.
the thing with the internet. Everybody has their own little
Yeah.
detective point of view of it, and then they just go, "Oh,
Exactly.
it means this." And a lot of people really stick by it, and they'll just like go, "Oh no, this is it because," and it's like that's not how it works.
And I hate to be like the sheeple thing, but like it is. Hey, favorite content creator, could you tell me what this is? Because
Right.
I'm confused. And depending on what content creator you're going to listen to, some of them, I'm not going to name names, aren't going to be truthful to you or know as much as you do and are going to act like they know more. And that's why it's really awesome that here today we got two people that look like Hogue, I think Gaz as well, work in contract law, and they're telling you, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
This is just basic stuff.
Yeah. But
That's
yeah,
nice.
again, getting Hogue on was great. Getting Gaz on was a bonus. Didn't know he would be able to make it. So yeah, that was a great perspective to get their legal understanding of it. I do want to get to the super chats, and then we of course will get to the next topic. The first one of the day comes to my brother. From the Basement Radio Arcade podcast, known as Enrique, the subtle voice of that show, which you definitely should subscribe to. He drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, "Hey, boom, Hogue in the house." Indeed, Mads Gaming, a good friend of this community, he is bringing his podcast back next Thursday, and yours truly will be joining him at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to, welcome back his show. He drops an outstanding $10 super chat and says, "Who let Gaz in the building? I have to raise my hand. It was my fault." Davigan 89 drops a $2 super chat and says, "I have already spent like $100 on on the show stubs." Wow. You see, again, that's the power of Game Pass. If you don't buy the game and you are more willing to drop those kinds of monies for the packs and stuff. Outbreak Podcast drops a very generous $2 super chat and says something just as nice. "Best show on YouTube. Here comes the boom." Thank you for the generous comment and of course your generosity. Gerald Mack, generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Shout out to Mr. Boomstick in the panel. Looks like you have a dream team of gaming, Hogue Law and Gaz. If it don't fit, you must have quit." I love it. That's great. That's the old OJ trial. JC Claramore, generous friend of the show, he drops a $2 super chat and says, "Would love Red Alert Yuri's Revenge on console." Yeah, Red Alert I've never played. I've seen it. I know it was available on the 360 many, many, many moons ago. I think I actually owned it. I just never played it, which is crazy. Davikin 89 drops an additional super chat of $5 and says, "Truth is, Game Pass is breaking servers on the latest multiplayer on the market. That's a whole new level of success." Well, listen, I mean, they're definitely some of these companies, like what happened to Outriders. I don't think they realized how big the Game Pass equation was going to be. It shocked a lot of people. Reggie Mobile 9, a generous friend of the show, he drops very generous $10 super chat and says, "Great show, boom. As always, I wonder how many similar deals like this Sony has with other companies. Salute to you, boom, and this excellent panel on and happy Friday." Well, thanks so much for that. And of course, I already had read Pixelbit G's earlier. Davikin 89 drops an additional $3 super chat and says, "The 45 FPS makes you wonder they're babysitting someone." Oh, that's definitely makes you think. Again, bad press is gonna push the narrative and the conversation. Lord Roughness, generous friend of the show, he drops a $5 super chat and says, this if this contract is real, it tells us the relationship between Capcom and Sony is still pretty close, and hence Capcom are not for sale to Microsoft. Yeah, I listen. I would love it, but I think Capcom financially is doing very well. As a matter of fact, I would even dare say that out of the Japanese companies, they are probably one of the higher money-making companies simply because of the amount of content that they put out. CYV Studios drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, is like the perfect advertising platform for gaming. So when you are building your game, you need to have a marketing budget. I leave the rest to you. Well, again, it's a conversation that can definitely be spent 2 hours, but we do want to catch up with the rest of the show, and let's do that right now. Let me get my watermark here so I can see exactly where we are when I put this into the show notes. Now, look, Joe, you said something interesting, and I literally built this topic around what you said. And you said, what the hell is Jim Ryan talking about? Now, so now obviously he says a lot of things. Some of the things we understand, some things like this we don't. According to a report from an interview with Japanese outlet Nikkei, or Nikki, I believe it might be pronounced, the CEO and president of Sony Interactive, talked about the company's future strategy for PlayStation 5. And this is what Jim Ryan had to say regarding this deal, or, upcoming deals. We have been quietly but steadily investing in high-quality games for the PlayStation. And we will make sure the PlayStation 5 generation has more exclusive software than ever before. We have engaged in mergers and acquisitions several times in the past, such as with Insomniac Games. We will not rule out that option in the future. Now, here's the question, Joe.
Okay.
My question to when I was writing this show is this Jim Ryan's answer to Game Pass? And it just might be. So we don't know. Again, this is completely a speculative kind of a conversation. At least in my opinion, it is a short-term fix to what's going on, though there is a back-end problem. Again, looking at it from layman's terms, folks, I'm not going to go into the legal aspect because I do not qualify to say those things. So I'm going to just keep it as a host of a game show, a game talk show, and we're just going to go crazy with what I think is happening. They cannot challenge Game Pass, at least in current form. Is that going to change? Well, I don't know, but I think not. Only because Jim Ryan said that for Sony, Game Pass is unsustainable. Now, is that going to change with the recent Netflix deal? Is that going to change with the recent Marvel Disney deal where they got that money? Now, again, you say, well, wait a second, Boom. You're talking about Sony Pictures and you're talking about PlayStation. Well, that same conversation could be had when I talk about Microsoft proper and Xbox. Still one company, two different entities, but one hand washes the other and both hands wash the face. So with all of these monies, and Sony has the Spider-Man license, and they have a very valuable IP, they could in turn invest some of that monies into the PlayStation to get certain deals, to make a Game Pass-esque, what would I call it? The greatness pass. Joe, do you think that this is what is happening, or is this a short term? Because again, my back end problem with this is Sony raised their price of games by $10. And I still feel, even though I'm pulling for Housemarque, and I will eventually buy the game, I don't want to spend $75 on a roguelike game because that's normally not my thing, even though the game looks dope. A game might get 8s. It might get 9s. Hell, someone may even give it a 10. But I still, again, on the back end of what we're talking about, even third-party deals that become exclusive, like, for instance, a Neo 3, are going to be hurt by the $75 price point. What are your thoughts on this, Joe?
This is the first litmus test to see if the $70 actually hurts. Because we hear it, right? It's kind of echoes what I said earlier. We hear it may from people like us. We don't really know. So, like for example, Demon Souls sold really well. That's a $70 game, but it also came at the launch of the console.
Yep.
So, knowing that this game is a few months after the launch of the PS5 is really going to be, I think, the first test to see not just if Sony could keep doing it, but to see if others can do it as well. So that's the first thing. Second thing is consumer spending on games during this pandemic has been absolutely wild, right?
Mhm.
Like you're seeing companies pull out some of the highest profits. I mean, like just top of my head, like Sony pulled in $20 billion during this panorama that we're living in. So to me, it's like consumer spending is we're bored at home, so we're going to actually spend a lot of money. My really, if Returnal sells well, which from what I'm seeing Google tracking wise, Benji actually made a tweet as well. It's really high right now, which is a really good thing for the amount of advertising they've done. The critical reception, and from what I've been hearing, is this is another really awesome game. So those are all things that matter here. And I think for us, we don't know yet if the $70 is going to make an impact here, and what also the goal of Housemarque and Sony is for this game. Like what is the marker to say that this game's a success? We don't know. Am I expecting this game to sell millions of units? Not really. I'm thinking it to be in the lows. Depending on the size of what Housemarque is as a company, really does dictate what they deem as a success. So, what Jim Ryan said is interesting because and going back on that, he and Herman Hulst yesterday announced another partnership with another small team of Apex Legends, Destiny, Halo devs for multiplayer IP. A few months ago, we talked about, or a month ago, I don't even know time, we talked about Haven Studios, a small AAA or what's going to be a small studio making a AAA game as well. And this is not the answer to Game Pass, but this is Sony's answer to what they've seen from Microsoft, where it's a very aggressive expansion of their first party. And PlayStation people looking at Sony and going, what are you doing for me lately? And I think a lot of the news that we talked about yesterday addresses and talks to directly the Sony fans, right? So you had Jim Ryan go out there going, we are investing in AAA games. We're going to have more of them this generation than we did last. We do have something that we're working on with Azure servers. We're just not at liberty to say yet.
Yep.
Don't worry about the whole Poland video thing. This is literally just a test in one country to see if it works. And you're seeing them talking vagaries, but talking to their community and addressing those issues. So to me, it is PlayStation kind of reassuring their audience while they're out there cranking out whatever state of play that they're going to have this summer. But I do think their answer to Game Pass is not the Polish video thing that they're testing. I think we're going to see that in June or July, what it is. And again, Sony cannot invest the money that Microsoft has. This is something I think I talked about on Cast Co-op this week. Is they don't have the influx of cash Microsoft has. Microsoft was able to burn billions of dollars in the span of 3-4 years to build up Game Pass. Sony is not that company, and they'll never be that company. What they're doing is being very agile. Like you're seeing the Disney deals, the Netflix deals. That's Sony as a whole understanding that they don't have a network like Disney or Netflix, and they need to be a part of it. And at the same exact time, they're a much smaller company, so they have to navigate what has now become a very volatile environment for anybody that is not a Samsung, Microsoft, Apple, Google.
Yep.
So that's Microsoft's big test and big worry. They can't do Game Pass. it is not sustainable. Asterisks for them. They can't just burn tens of billions of dollars on a project that is a huge risk for them, way bigger than Microsoft's risk with Game Pass. They can't afford it. So to me, I still say keep your expectations tempered for whatever the Game Pass counterpunch is, because it's gonna be more like a than anything. But in terms of like $70 price tag games, it may not have an effect at all. May not even, because again, companies are making the most money they ever have.
Yep.
And we're in a panorama and people are just bored. So I'm really interested to see when we're out of the Pepsi Cola, what it's going to look like when people are out and about and, actually able to go out, and games aren't necessarily the only escape they need. That's, I think, going to be interesting, is like, will people be used to paying that price tag at that point, or will people then just say, yeah, I'll wait?
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's a fantastic point. Big Claw, let's get your opinion on this, brother.
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on the conversation that they are going to make investment in third party games? This did, he didn't actually say third party, but we can assume that it's second and third party games because it's it's exclusive content. This is something that at least that I have expected, and it's why I own a PlayStation, because whatever I can't play on Xbox that I can only play on said PlayStation 5, for some reasonable aspects like Returnal. Again, I want to buy it. I'm just not going to, at least not now.
You weren't sold immediately day one.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain games, the God of War 2, day one, Horizon, day one. There's certain times.
There you go, John. But that's what I was saying. Like, that's why the $70 price tag, it's a gift and a curse to Sony in the long run. Yeah, it'll make a profit, but it's like, when it comes to non-established franchises, it's harder to sell those, and you have to really come out swinging to sell them on that product. It's how it is. A lot of people thought I was crazy when I said this for Returnal, but it still remains true to this day. Like, look at you. You don't even want to buy it right now.
Right.
It happens.
I mean, here's a perfect example of great games that unfortunately were lost to just not being in the spotlight enough, or being too expensive, or not getting enough love from Sony. Concrete Genie is a masterpiece if you are someone that appreciates the artwork that goes into making a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that, I just got a notification from VGC. Now, I like VGC. In fact, I use their stuff almost exclusively now because I love the writers over there. And I'm talking about videogamechronicles.com. Definitely check them out because they're non-biased, at least from my experience. And their writers are very well-spoken. I just had something pop up, and it's called Off the Record. Returnal has surprised us in a way we did not expect. And I think that you're going to get a lot of people to say that. The problem is two things here. Will it be hurt by a $75 plus price tag? And more importantly, will it suffer because of not being advertised enough?
That's a good point. Now, I talked to Mooch about this, and Mooch was like, he made a good point too. He was like, well, more likely the game would sell, period, because there's not really anything out there for PlayStation 5. Like, that's new. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's kind of just like thirsty for that next new experience. Like, I don't know if you see the previews, everybody who's got the game already playing it, they're talking about how immersive it is.
Yes.
Like, they're saying you can hear the raindrops.
You can actually feel the raindrops.
That's crazy. That's crazy that they've done that type of immersion. So again, like, people might buy it. I can definitely see people buying it pure off of pure impulse, right? Impulse buying it. I can see people buying into it. But the thing is, though, how long would that last, so to speak, right? And how many people are actually going to buy it? And that right there is where, again, it goes back to that $70 price tag. And Sony needs to come out swinging with every game, especially that has that $70 price tag. Obviously, games like the Uncharted's, games like The Last of Us, games like the God of Wars, they don't have to work like this because they're already established. Everybody knows what they're getting with each package. But when you go and you look at the marketing for Returnal, I even complained about this. I was like, listen, The first trailer of Returnal was probably the most confusing trailer we've seen in the game. And it's like, it made no sense. Nobody knew what it was about. The third trailer, it was like, how come that wasn't the first trailer? I got context of the game. I saw gameplay. It seemed very compelling. It was cool, right? Why wasn't that the first look of it? And that's the thing. They need to do that type of thing. They need to do a better job of making sure that you at least understand the context of these games in order for people to really buy them. Again, the hardcore gamer, us, we look into this stuff. We do the extra research. We'll buy, we'll look at the videos, the previews. These casuals are the ones you've really got to sell the game on as well. You have to really make it look like appealing. And like I already talked about before, on my channel, a lot of people tend to talk about these games, but don't buy them. That's another issue.
That's a great point.
That's another issue. Like I even said that on my, like a lot of people didn't catch on to my tweet, but when I showed off my screenshot, yeah, I bought the game, but my question is, how many of you are going to buy the game? That's a good point.
Well, you know what? We've seen,
and that's the thing. You mentioned something.
Yep.
It's not Uncharted. It's not Last of Us. It's not God of War.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to work a little harder. That's why these previews
are perfect.
Are so important. And yes, what's really important is the legs of this game. Yeah. Like we're seeing with Spider-Man Miles Morales for a DLC, gang.
Oh yeah, DLC. Like me and you were like, oh, $70. Oh, you got that cheap? Yeah, you give me the original? Hey, I'll take that cheap because you know what? The first one. Incredible, right?
Yeah.
We knew what this was, Joe. We all knew what Miles was going to be. It wasn't a full-fledged big game. It was just a starter, a kind of tease to what you're going to get in part 2. That's all.
And what will affect Returnal, just to see how it's being marketed and how my PR brain's working, is it's going to rely on the previews, and it's going to heavily rely on the reviews of this game. And I've seen a lot of people be very skeptical of this game.
Yep.
Seeing all the previews that are absolutely glowing, it seems, and then outright pre-ordering it, going, all right, you sold me. This is it.
Did the Days Gone developer say something about the game reviews as well? Like the previews, he said those are super important as well. He's like, yeah. So yeah,
and I think I think Returnal is going to be fine. From what I understand, it's going to be absolutely fine.
So what do you think sales wise for this one? I mean, new IP, $70,
I think what you said earlier of like, there's nothing to play right now. There's a drought.
Oh, yeah.
So they have a perfect opportunity to capitalize on that. So I think it's going to do well sales wise in the first month. I'm very curious to see by the time all the May games come out,
right,
where Returnal is going to stand on that MPD.
Because it only has like a week. It has like a week to itself to really like do some numbers until Resident Evil. Because that's really like the star of the show for a lot of people. It's really,
I mean, well, you have Mass Effect, you have
and
Resident Evil, and there's something else big in May.
Right. So I mean, it's like they really, again, they have to. That's the thing too. It's like you have to really come out swinging. You have to really show like what you got, like what's the guy to offer.
At least they're ahead and not in the middle, like Titanfall 2.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So
I mean, again, great points from two PlayStation representatives. Love the honesty, love the integrity that comes with your conversation. Crispy Bomb, let's get your opinion, and we'll get Dreadpool's opinion on this. Crispy, look, you have been someone that has not been shy to talk about Game Pass and how it has made gaming for you, your girlfriend, and her kid. How important it is because of the affordability. This, the Jim Ryan deal, which was not very specific at all. It was a deal that was interesting, sure. We don't know on the back end what that exactly is going to mean, but we do know that it's potentially going to mean that that we're going to get more $70 plus games that are only going to be available on PlayStation. Is that enough when you see Game Pass exploding on the scene the way it has?
I don't believe so. There's going to be a point in time where the value proposition is just going to overcome anything going on one side, and it's very strange that they have like kind of been so vague about everything. rather see some more linear thought process.
Let's get going.
At some point. So it's a little strange that, you know, they continue to be extremely vague and at the same time trying to like put out big things, and we wonder, you know, what their actual end game is. Is it, you know, to eventually kind of concede and create a Game Pass like model? You know, you talk about Azure. Why did you invest in it if you're not going to really use it? So we're waiting for all that. And, you know, personally, like that is Returnal's problem is, you know, you have like experimental type games like Outriders taking the chance on Game Pass and really flourishing. And, you know, it's because it's kind of, you know, held back on being, you know, only next gen, you know, you wonder, is this just to satisfy the PlayStation 5 audience? Because if you remember, they pushed back a lot of games like Ratchet and stuff that were supposed to kind of release now and in this time frame. So I'm wondering if this game is just kind of like to satisfy, and it might actually blow up from what I'm seeing. So that's great, but I mean, you only have a certain set of the audience right now that's really like, yes, I can get this game and I can play it. So we'll see, you know, if maybe somehow they make a port down the road to the PlayStation 4 audience. I don't know. I don't know if it's even possible. But as of now, I mean, the excitement level on Xbox side, I think, is just more because of Game Pass and what it allows us to do and what it allows us to try, and seeing the engagement and how people are, you know, reacting to, you know, some of these games and these games that are going to be coming that, you know, may not be this huge AAA, but it's definitely multiplayer centric, like what you have on here right now, Second Extinction. You know what I mean? These games that will get the eyes on it immediately. And that's without, you know, paying more than your subscription price, I think is going to start to really hit home, you know, in a few years.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Dreadpool, let's get your final opinion on this topic so we can move on to, and I think what's going to end up happening, folks, is we have another big PlayStation topic that we're going to get into, and I don't think we're going to have time for the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. So just FYI, that we're not going to lose out. You are not going to lose out on that topic. I am going to bring that topic forward for Monday's primetime gaming, and we have Ains from BitCloud, not BitCloud Gaming. Oh my God. I don't remember the name of it. Shame on me. I'm having a brain fart live on the air. So Ainsley, who is a friend of this community, who's done some big work. Yes, Bitcast. Damn it, God, thank you so much. The Bitcast is going to be joining us on Monday's primetime gaming, and I will bring that forward so you can, so we can talk about it, because we do have confirmation from Jason Schreier, of all people, that it is real. We even have the developer that's making it, and quite frankly, like I'll say on Monday's show, I'm happy to know that it's not BioWare making the remake, because I have lost a lot of faith in that team, and I think they have too much on their plate right now. So we'll get into that, but we definitely got to move forward. Dreadpool, for you, looking at the overall gaming picture, unfortunately, yes. You know, we have seen, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, we have seen that there has been a significant amount of spending during the pandemic because people are home. But that doesn't necessarily mean that $75 after tax in this country, $106 in the UK, and $116 plus in Australia are something that people are going to be willing to do. And especially on a PlayStation 5 only exclusive that no one has heard of. If it was an Uncharted game or a God of War game, I don't think it's a problem. I don't even think it's a problem for a Horizon game. And I'm not saying that Housemarque made a bad game. You heard what everyone's saying. I love Housemarque. I think that they're absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite indie developers for PlayStation. Do you think the when you the overall conversation, when you look at Game Pass, its proponent value, and then you see a game like this launch on a very small amount of consoles, do you think the $70 price point is going to be an issue? And more importantly, could that backfire on Jim on his plans to potentially get more exclusives?
Well, I think the $70 price point is pretty much set in stone. I think it's part of change, and that's what's going to end up happening. Whether or not they bring it down, I don't think they will.
No, me either. I
You know what I'm
agree.
saying? I don't think they're going to back down on that. It's different if you're talking about the console, as time progresses, but I don't think the games will. Now, for it to be, a new game and full price versus something that was tried and true at full price. We've played many games back in our past at full price, and we had no idea what we were buying because it looked cool in the cover art. So, human nature, we're going to be curious. We're going to want to, impulse buy. Don't forget. I mean, even like this game right now that we're watching, right? What did I say? I said I'm not interested in it, but guess what? It's going to be on Game Pass, right? And we're going to be able to play it, and I'm going to play with my friends if they convince me to do that. Now, $70. If my friend says, "Hey, you know what? This is a badass game," I guess it's late enough to say that. Sorry.
No, that's
but
fine.
you know what I'm saying? They're going to convince me to buy the game. If they're saying I'm having fun, this $70 is worth it. It's gonna infest everybody else, because if your friend likes it and that's the same friend that you both like these type of games, you're gonna follow suit. You might not be the first one to buy it right away, but you'll be following right along with them, going, all right, can I borrow that game, or should I just go ahead and buy it? You know what I mean? Oh yeah, definitely buy it. If you want to come over and play it, come over and try it out. But yeah, definitely I suggest you buy it. When you have people promoting games like that, other people will buy it. So whether, like I said, it's a new game or something like Uncharted, people are going to buy it based on what they know and what they're being told. So if you trust your friend, you're going to do the same thing. If it's a friend that you usually like, yeah, whatever they say, just don't do it. You're going to be doing the opposite, because you're like, yeah, they like these type of games and I never do. So obviously they're going to push their favorite game, and we know that I don't like it, so I'll back away from it. So it's just something that, as humans, we've learned to take other people's opinion, right? We look at Metacritic and we're like, oh, what's this? Who cares? It's a collective of people that have their varying opinions, and it's supposed to be a decent collection, so you can base your opinion on it. But we already know that there's people that will overhype it and underhype it, so those numbers don't mean anything. Rely on people that you play with, that you speak with, that you listen to, people that you trust, and that's where it's going to be. It's going to be, all right, this $70 game, because we know, eventually it may go on sale. Are you willing to wait that, or are you willing to play with your friends now?
Yeah, I never suffer from FOMO. I will vote with my wallet, but I'm right now playing 4 games, which is I don't like doing, but I'm just enjoying myself on so many different experiences that for me, the $70 eternal conversation I'm just not having it right now, because again, I know it's going to go on sale. I'm going to support the dev. I'm going to get it on sale. I'm sorry to say that. And again, I don't have money growing on trees in my home. If I did, then I would buy it and everything, but I don't. So I'm going to hold off. I'm going to do what a lot of consumers do. I'm going to continue to appreciate the value that Microsoft, is giving me through my service, and hope that one day Sony makes a decision to at least match or come close. But let me catch up on some of the super chats, and then we're going to get to the last topic. First of all, I missed one earlier by XTH27 Lost. He dropped an outstanding $5 super chat. Didn't leave a comment. I think he just dropped one again. Let's see, who else did I miss? CYV Studios actually dropped several, and one of which he had brought to my attention that I missed. I think it was, let's see, here's the one I missed. People are always talking about having to pay to get games on Game Pass, but that's not always the case, because with 20 plus million subs of the right audience, and he continues with a second one, dude. Thank you so much for the generosity. Is like the perfect advertising platform for gaming. So when you are building your game, you need to have a marketing budget I leave the rest to you. Indeed. And Gaz, good friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, Mad love, Boom. Sorry I had to leave early. Sauce. Hashtag sauce. Now, it's okay, brother. You got to, take care of business. We're happy that you're here. And, of course, CYV Studios let me know with us $2 super chat that I missed the one before. So thank you for that. Gerald Mack drops a very generous additional $5 super chat and says, the game Returnal will sell well because PlayStation does not have any games. If that's a new game, it will sell. Kudos for PlayStation for not actually having games. They don't have a lot out right now, and I think that people are starving for a new PlayStation exclusive, and they're going to get it. And quite frankly, from the early reports, it's a good one. It's a good one. Chet Sandberg drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, with Game Pass at 23 million. Yeah. And climbing, will Halo break concurrent player records?
Absolutely.
Dude, 100%.
I had my mic muted for God knows how long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was
commenting
on the
one super
chat.
He says,
"Will totally right."
Will it break servers? Yes, I think it will.
Absolutely.
And will it bring more folks to Game Pass? You see, I think that Microsoft is secretly going to go do. They're doing that right now. And we saw that. We saw the early workings of their master marketing, which has been leaps and bounds better this generation. Master Chief in Fortnite, freaking huge. Like a big deal. It's a big deal. Sure, we had Kratos, we have Aloy, we have so many cool people. Lara Croft. I mean, the list goes on and on. But Master Chief is a stroke of genius. Now we are hearing that there's something big happening between Nintendo and Microsoft. I have a feeling that it's going to be big. But one of the things that we have heard, and we've seen silhouettes of it, whether it's real, fake, or whatever, Master Chief is going into one of the biggest fighters. No doubt about it. I mean, people are going to, Joe, you said you're going to rebuy.
I'll rebuy that game. I will buy that DLC. I want to see Master Chief. It's what I've wanted for literally
Master Chief.
Long.
Yeah, Master Chief in Fortnite, great. Master Chief in
Smash is something.
Smash Brothers is legendary.
Yeah,
if he's in that, that's gonna be like wow.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. And we also had Artemis drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, the media enjoying the game. I think it's a surprise for Sony. I agree. Well, Housemarque is just great. Yeah, if really Sony had a real confidence in this game, would they do a state of play like Ghost of Tsushima?
They did do one, but it was like for 3 minutes.
It was about 3.5 minutes. It wasn't long enough. Yeah.
I think that has to do with, what the world panorama that we're in right now. That's yeah, they can't focus all their time on it, unfortunately. And to go back on the one super chat, like it is true. I think one of the main reasons this game's gonna sell is like there's nothing to play right now on PlayStation. Nothing. Yep. And it's super surprising how well that console is selling. Like it's the fastest selling console of all time. And I'm playing PS3 games right now, PS Now. Like I'm itching for something to play.
I think you, along with a lot of people. No doubt about it. XTH27 Lost drops another $5 super chat and says, "How did COVID vaccine affect you?" For me, I was the first day fine. My arm was a little sore. Mrs. Boomstick had some soreness in her arm for the next 2 days, but that Sunday, because we went last Saturday to get it, Sunday we were a little bit lethargic. We didn't want to do much of anything. We were just more sleepy than anything. So we took a couple of naps during the day. And afterwards, it wasn't so bad. I think that the second shot's a little more potent. Yeah. And I think we're expecting that we could potentially get a little fever, get a little nausea in the conversation. But we have to see. We're going in May to get our second shot. I actually cannot wait to get that done.
The first shot usually just gives you the antibody. That's probably what you were feeling. Your body just developed them. That's what it is. A lot of people have different reactions to it.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. Like I said, Mrs. Boomstick's biggest complaint was that she had a little trouble lifting her arm all the way up. It felt
shortness of breath or nothing like that?
No, thank God. Dude. None of that. But listen, I want to move on to the next topic. Now, listen, this is one that took a lot of people by surprise. Former Ben Studio creative director and writer of Days Gone said, "What?" His name is John Garvin, and he was speaking to ex-game developer David Jaffe on Jaffe's YouTube show, where he was asked if he's heard anything about any meaningful uptick of engagement with Days Gone since the game was added to PlayStation Plus Collection on PS5, and of course they talked about it coming to PC. And he says this, and I quote, "I do have an opinion on something that your audience may find of interest, and it might piss some of them off. If you love a game, and I'm not going to curse on this show, buy it at effing full price. I can't tell you how many times I've seen gamers say, hey, I got that game on sale. I got it through PS Plus, whatever. But how do you?" And so this was Jaffe's response. "But how do you know if you love a game until you've played it?" And this was Gavin's response. "I'm just saying you don't. But you don't complain if a game doesn't get a sequel if it wasn't supported at launch. It's like God of War got whatever number millions of sales at launch, and Days Gone didn't. I'm just speaking for me personally as a developer. I don't work for Sony. I don't know what the numbers are." Now, again, I have to kind of retread this back. When you see this, Days Gone sold, at least from what I understand, and I got to go to my PlayStation guys for this, relatively well. It didn't get a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
But I thought it reviewed okay. Now, it did release with some bugs, so I think that
impressions were bad of the game.
And that's because of there was some bug issues. I don't think you're going to see the same thing with Returnal. Returnal seems very polished.
Yeah.
Housemarque, masters of their craft. My question to you, and I'll start with BitCloud on this. Here's the thing. Gavin seems like he's I don't want to use the word disgruntled. He's angry. He seems like a very angry person. He was on Jaffe's show, which is a show that is a little raw for my taste. Not my cup of tea. I've actually, unfortunately, had it out with Jaffe live on the air, as a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, regarding something he said that I found to be disrespectful. And of course, we parted ways, and I don't watch his stuff, and he doesn't even know who the hell I am, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But my question is, with Xbox Game Pass, and we got to bring again. I know people get annoyed at this. Oh, boom! Every time you talk about Sony, you talk about Xbox. Every time you talk about Xbox, you talk about Sony. But can you not talk about one another?
You can't please them all, boom.
You really can't. Could we see other developers speak out against consumers who wait for a sale? Is this something that is going to become a relevant conversation? Again, I want to see what happens with Returnal. I'm of course hoping for the best. I hope all 5 out of 6,000 people that have PlayStation 5s buy the game, because I love Housemarque. I will get it on sale. I will be one of those people because I'm playing a lot of stuff. I don't need to spend the $75 here in New York for it. Mike, again, can you answer that question? Do you think other developers are going to speak out against consumers who wait for a sale?
Good point. I mean, okay, let's just go back for a second here. How long has PlayStation or how long has Sony been in the game?
Very long time, since I think 99. Yeah.
So Nintendo has been here longer, obviously.
They never have a sale, those mother effers.
They never have a sale. But here's the thing about Nintendo, and this is the thing where I said about, and I did a video on this, and I wasn't emotional, but I was just very, very to the point, because it was really, it's one of those issues that you have to address, because it's an issue in the PlayStation community. Now, you already know, we're on Twitter, right? We all have Twitter accounts. We all have YouTube channels. We see how people act about all these games on YouTube and Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody's quick to hype them up, right? But they're not quick to buy them. They're not quick to support them. And you see this with every major release. You don't believe me? Look at Uncharted 4, for example. Uncharted 4 sold about 15 million units worldwide.
Yep.
15. Lost Legacy sold over 1 million. That was
Lost Legacy, if
And
you did not
Legacy's a
play
better
that game,
a good game.
was a masterpiece.
Right. But you have to ask yourself, Joe, only over 1 million for a Lost Legacy? What was, you know what I mean? What's the turnoff? Why wasn't this game looked at the same way type of thing? And you got to look at it always goes back to the consumer. You see, the thing about Nintendo, we give Nintendo trash.
Oh, by the
all
way,
time.
I was corrected, and I should have said this, and I know this. PlayStation came out in 1995. Thank you for the correction. That is Mr. M. Thank you for that.
Okay. But when you look at Nintendo doesn't have this issue with their consumers. For example, if they drop a game, whether it be new, whether it be something that's completely out of the gate type of thing, right? You know how much that game is guaranteed to sell? And I'm talking like minimal.
Dude, 10
like
million?
10 million
Yeah.
minimal. Where is that type of support for PlayStation? You got to ask. And again, people are, and this goes back to people like to push the narrative that first party exclusives are the be all of it all, right? But it's like, if that's the case, then don't you think these games would be selling, I don't know, 10 out the gate, 20 lifetime, you know what I mean, each particular game, and then you don't get that type of answer. It's always just some kind of like, oh, some damage control in some sense. Well, this game caters to that type of person. I don't even see it like that. Nintendo has tons of experiences that do more than this. That's the difference in PlayStation. Now, to go back to what he said about, buy a game full price. Here's the thing about Days Gone. I even did a review of Days Gone. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I thought Days Gone had potential. It just had a rough start. It had a lot of potential. The thing about Days Gone, though, and unfortunately, we've seen this before we even got to Days Gone. We saw it earlier at the start of the PS4 gen with The Order 1886. The Order 1886. We can all agree, right?
Dude,
that game has limitless potential.
One of my favorite franchises that we will never get a sequel to.
But remember what he said in the interview? He said Metacritic scores also play a factor into this.
Yeah,
right?
Indeed.
What was the Metacritic score for The Order 1886? Like a 60 something, right?
It was like 67, I think it was, something like that.
Right. 67 didn't sell well. It goes right back there as well. It's like a lot of people really are hoping for it. Now, we bought the game, right? We were there day one. We bought the game. But a lot of people who didn't buy that game, day one especially, were like, damn, I wouldn't mind a sequel. And it's like, well, unfortunately, the game wasn't funded the way it should have been at the time, or it didn't get the proper reception that it needed to get that done.
I mean, I bought the collector's edition of that game, which I still have, by the way.
Dude, I wanted the Blackwater one with the little pendant. That's the one I tried to get. I couldn't get my hands on it. But to go back into that, people, they want these games. They want this, that, and the third. It's like, again, they didn't reach a target. Like, again, you might look at the thing. You might go, okay, 4 million sold right now. All right, so okay, 4 million sold, 5 million sold, 6 million sold. That's not a bad deal at all. But when you look at the overall install base of PlayStation, especially on the PS4, let's throw PS4 into the mix here. When you look at the install base of PlayStation 4, logically, how many sales do you think you would get from that game if you look at that install base?
Yeah, that's good. That's,
that's
fantastic point. I mean, right now, I think they're closer to 115 million consoles in the wild. We are the 1%ers, right?
Right.
We don't make up a huge aspect of who buys these consoles. So that could be. I mean, listen, I said this before. 5 million of anything is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's not what the shareholders want. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes,
the shareholders are looking. There's a difference between we perceive as good and what the shareholders perceive as good. That makes sense. A shareholder is looking at it, stuff is like, well, 5 million. I mean, then they look at how much they put into that game.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, this is what we got to show for 5 million. So again, it's like it always comes down.
It's about ROI, dude. It's about return on investment. How much are we investing in this?
There you go.
How much are we getting out of it?
Why do you think we're getting Uncharted games? Well, let's face it. Uncharted 1, right? Uncharted 1 had a mediocre reception. Got like 80-something on the Metacritic. It sold like 3 or 4 million.
2 is a masterpiece.
Number 2 comes out. It takes all that criticism, flips it around, and that game sold over 10.
Yeah, it's my favorite PlayStation 3 game of all time.
Part 3 comes out. It sells more. And then you get part 4 that sold more, broke the record. So you get what I'm saying? That's the type of stuff they're looking for. They're looking for those Nintendo sales for games. Granted, you're still gonna get the new IP, since why he reassured you that Sony is obviously going and investing in new games. But make no mistake about it, Sony's looking for that next killer app, if that makes sense. Oh, you get, but Sony's looking for that next killer app. They want that next killer app. They need that next killer app to go aside the Uncharted, to go alongside the Last of Us, the Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima, we know that's getting a sequel. That game did. We know that's happening. That did really, really good. Horizon Zero Dawn did what, 10? That's another one that's getting sued. Hence why we got Forbidden Wilds. So you guys kind of get this the trend here. God of War sold ridiculously well, so you're going to get those sequels. But what else you're going to get? Again, that depends on how well they do on the market. And I said that before. Sony's not going to keep throwing money. Like, a lot of people think Sony's going to play this game of darts where they're just throwing stuff at the wall, and they're going to keep throwing stuff at the wall, wasting this, that, and the third on without seeing a serious return on the investment. And it's like, I get it, because we were used to that with the PS4, because Sony was kind of doing that. They didn't really care as much with Sean Layden. They were nonchalant about their investments. Like, I remember when they went with the PS3, where they invested into that crazy gimmick. It was called Wonder Book. You remember that?
Oh God,
They were doing a lot of crazy stuff to kind of stick out in the market. But the thing is, they're being very conservative with a lot of stuff now, and you're seeing this happen. Hence why they're remaking classics. I already talked about this on the last show, but Blue Point Games is supposedly making Metal Gear Solid remake for PlayStation.
We've heard that for a while.
Happened. Yeah, that's what's going around. We hear Silent Hill, we hear Castlevania, we're hearing so many games that we know for a fact would sell. And Sony just teased out SOCOM yesterday. So it's like,
people have been asking for that. I think that'd be great for them to bring that back.
Yeah, so Sony clearly knows what will sell. Sony knows what they need to do, but at the same time, a lot of people look to Sony as the risk takers, and that's the biggest thing that's part of their identity. They're the risk takers. They go out there and throw a lot into new IPs. You're still going to get those, but I don't see them, you know what I mean? I don't see them crazy, like nonstop like we did before. I see them sporadic, like I see them kind of like sporadic appearances. Like you'll see them do it here and there, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think that's why we're seeing the announcements of like Firewalker and Haven Studios. They're doing it in a very small and precise way.
Right.
We'll build up the studio. It's gonna we'll throw you X amount of money, make us this IP. And, I bet with Housemarque as well, they're like, let's see how you do, and maybe we bring you on.
Yeah, Sony's building a relationship. That's the thing. Sony's trying to build the relationship first instead of just a studio, which is smart. Hideo Kojima Productions, they got all the funding in the world, and they got Death Stranding, and Death Stranding's, wherever he wants it to be. Haven Studio with the Jade Raymond, who's the creator of Assassin's Creed. I'm excited for what she's making. I don't know what she's going to make, but that game, it could be the next year. She gave us Assassin's Creed. Hey, listen, she got my vote. She's going to do something good. But they clearly don't do those type of investments. They're small. It can be very beneficial to them, especially if the game wows everybody and it does a lot. Like Death Stranding, we can agree. Death Stranding is not like your average game. It's more of a very slow pace type of game.
Well, I mean, the thing with and the one of the interviews, I think it was with Jeff Ross, which was really insightful, was Death Stranding barely broke even.
Yeah,
from his understanding, barely broke even. So it's not like Sony doesn't take wild risks. They do. It's just sometimes they don't pay off.
They don't pay off. Exactly. It's like they don't. I don't know. And it's like, and I'm always scratching my head on that. It's like, how could this game only sell that when it looks so good? Like, it blows you away. But it's like, oh, this game, this miraculous, random game does this. It's like, wow, okay. And again, it goes right back to, the community. So I really look at the community and at that particular situation. Because it's like, especially you see it on Twitter, Joe. Like, dudes will hype them up. They'll say they're buying it day one. It's this, that, and third. They'll get upset when it's being taken away like they did for Days Gone. It's like, okay, if you cared about Days Gone, then you probably would have, I don't know, supported Day One.
And I think that's what the creator was trying to say.
Yeah, let's get your opinion on this, Joe. Do you think more creators are going to start speaking out, seeing that the former Ben Studio creative director / writer said what he said?
I mean, we've already seen at Bend go, hey, we appreciate you whether you bought at day one or right now. Kind of walking back that was a very and even he himself has walked back that. He's like, that wasn't the point I was trying to make across, and I really worded it poorly. I'm like, I still don't know what the point you were trying to make with that comment was.
Right.
But I've seen people go, I'm not even gonna touch this game now because he said those things. I'm like, don't punish the people that worked on it just because one guy said one thing. That said, look, Days Gone, I've been very public, and I don't change my opinion because it's fancy or whatever to do such. Days Gone did not do it for me. It is possibly, I think, the weakest first party game for me. I just thought they had some cool ideas like with the Horde, but just a ton of at the same exact time, a ton of ideas that just didn't pan out, or like it was just Sons of Anarchy with zombies. And I saw through it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and so like I saw through a lot of that. It was also very buggy when it originally came out. And he mentioned it. He's like, yeah, but we fixed it within the first week. So I don't know why people didn't change the review scores. It's like, because they played it as is.
Exactly.
You can't just say, I mean, sometimes there's some flexibility here, but you can't say, hey, a patch is coming. So we know. Usually when you get a preview for a code, they go, here's the bugs that we know and that are being addressed right now. And the patch will be out on day one. I think there was one patch out on day one, then one a few weeks later. And then during the months, Bend fixed it to have an actual golden path.
Right.
The thing with Bend Studios, and I think what I saw from Jeff and what I saw from the writer was
Gavin. Yeah.
Gavin, sorry. Is there's a bit of a generational gap from the leadership to the actual people on the ground. They make allusions to that as well, but to me it really kind of seemed like they were a bit out of touch in certain places. Like, I mean, that line as well, like if you don't buy a day one type of logic, like it just kind of seemed like they weren't the people to match the moment, right? Usually you get leaders, whether it's worldwide or companies or whatever, there's a moment that comes around and they meet it. These people couldn't meet that moment for that team.
It was their first AAA game too. That's another thing. And
it's the first thing. And first big AAA game took 7 years to make. That's you need a big return on investment, and it just didn't do any of that. So I didn't even think Days Gone was going to get a sequel to begin with, because it just critically wasn't there. And commercially, it seems like it
did okay.
Oh, dude. No, Joe, you want to know another situation that's very similar?
Yeah.
Until Dawn. We're not getting a sequel to that neither, because Until Dawn didn't sell super well neither.
Still one of the best looking PlayStation 4
Crazy,
games.
Right, Joe? Crazy, Joe? When you go
I
back
thought it sold pretty well, right? We were like
2 mil, like 2, 3
that's
mil.
like during the. Let's hope we got.
I mean, that's the thing. You would hope that you would see that again. Like, but honestly, at the way things are going, I don't know, man. I don't even know. That's the sad part.
So I think this guy's logic's about skewed, of course, but I understand why he's hurt, because he very much put in a lot of love into that game. And listen, the one thing that I really liked out of this whole thing was it's not like Sony saying, all right, this is it, it's done, it's over, go be a support team. Ben literally walks up to Sony and goes, hey, listen, we don't want to do this Uncharted game. We want to do something that's our own. Fucking please be a Siphon Filter. And Sony's like, okay.
Yeah, they are working on their own IP. It's a new IP from what we understand. Now, whether it's a new old IP, to me, I don't care. If it's Siphon Filter, yes, we're good.
Dude, if it's Siphon Filter, think about this, man. We haven't gotten a Splinter Cell game, and maybe we never will. This might be the closest thing we get to it. If they're like, we want to do a spy espionage, and I get it, because you're thinking of a company you do want open world games. This is why open world games do so well, is because people are going to spend a lot of time on that. And single player narratives, you're getting your 10, 15 hours and you're kind of leaving.
Dude,
So
they're fire, man. Look at Hitman 3. Hitman 3 was incredible.
oh my
dude.
God,
Hitman
that's
3
my
was
game of the
incredible.
year right now.
Is
So
it really?
Big
Dude,
surprise.
It's so good, dude. It's
Yeah.
so good.
yeah, so for me, it's awesome to see that. So Sony sees this failure, and for what we can tell it is, and they just go, you know what? Here's another shot, and that's pretty awesome to see. And the
Yeah,
one
well,
thing that
again,
I did like was they still let their developers get weird. So
yeah, that's true, and that's important. And again, only time is going to tell. It's a couple of years out, so we'll see what they're working on. Crispy Bomb, let's get your opinion on this. Do you expect more developers to come out and talk about game sales in regards to support day one, especially with games that are not going to be in services that are pretty rewarding for developers and gamers like Game Pass?
I would hope not, because from what I saw, because I watch that live, very out of touch. I mean, holy crap. Maybe there's a reason why he's not doing anything right now. I'm just saying, because I don't see the logic. Like even Joe said, or anybody that's played Days Gone at the beginning, it just wasn't polished, and we completely get that. Like, but for you to be like, that means that an IP should die is just ridiculous. You know what I mean? For example, on the Xbox side, I mean, Rise. Where's our sequel?
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? And I understand like that, some people did not enjoy it, or it did have its issues. It definitely had similar issues as Days Gone, and it still has some of those issues, because I've played it more recently, and it's like, why is this the way it is? But that's why a sequel is so great, because you can correct these things that you've been critiqued on. And for Days Gone, for example, when I originally saw that, I don't remember what E3 it was originally shown.
2016.
Dude, I was like, what is going on right now? And this is right around, I think it was right around when World War Z came out, right? I mean, it was close.
Yeah, came out like a year after.
Yeah, and dude, like that movie sticks in my head, and I was like, dude, this is like World War Z, bro. Like, what is going on? And it died out in hype, and I feel like that hurt it. And then the way it launched did not help.
Yeah,
but I really feel like Bend could have really made a great sequel, and I think that's just for me down the road when I have a PlayStation 5. I'm going to look to that, and I'm probably going to play it, and it's probably going to be much more polished than it launched. And I'm going to be like, man, they could have really did something with this. And that's the feeling I had with Rise. I'm not a Sunset Overdrive fan, but I hear that from a lot of people.
I enjoyed that. That definitely should have gotten
the irony, Crispy, now that you're saying that, I'll let you finish. I'm so sorry I cut you off. Is most people that are singing the praises of Days Gone didn't play it at launch.
There you
yes, sir.
There you go.
But some are logical.
That's what killed it, bro.
Some, and I get that. I do get that. But I also know the Sony that has taken the hit and put out a high quality product on the next iteration.
Oh yeah,
and that goes for Xbox as well. Like, you go from Gears 1 to Gears 2, or even Halo 1 to Halo 2. Most people revere Halo 2. Most people revere Gears 2. And it's just like some IPs deserve at least a chance. And I feel like it's kind of, one of those IPs. It's zombies, stuff like that. A lot of things that can be relatable, but it also has a different, feel to it. Some people with the Sons of Anarchy, Joe might have just not liked that show. You know what I mean? But some people really
I
love that
Sons
show.
Of Anarchy. I love that. But
and you saw it through, and I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you saw the Jackie, you saw the motorcycle, you saw the ring.
But for what it is, I just feel there's a lot of games out there that, like, oh, let's just kill this IP is almost acting like, ignorant. Like, dude, like, you could really make something special if you really improve, and especially with social media now, you know, there's a lot of us and all on this panel, and I'm sure in the chat, that are completely honest in how a game feels and how it works, and some of us put that feedback in, and I think that means something, and that means that we are engaged, even though it might not reflect the sales. You know what I'm saying?
I think you make a great point, Crispy. I think the reason why Sony doesn't want a Days Gone was because even internally, people were comparing it to The Last of Us, of looking like The Last of Us. And so when Days Gone being seemingly done, it doesn't mean like we're not, like, maybe they make like an alien game and there's hordes of aliens or something like this, right? Where you're finding like hordes of things. You could keep some of those mechanics, but kind of maybe change the aesthetic, because I think that's why Sony's like, okay, we let you do it. We defended this thing being a zombie game, but it really did look like it just didn't connect, and we got this zombie IP that we don't want to have confused with anything else right now, because it's gonna do very, very big for us. So I think that's it. And you've raised a lot of amazing points because of that.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's get Dreadpool's final opinion, get everyone out of here. I'll read the last super chats that have come in, and we'll send everybody on their way to enjoy gaming. And of course, this weekend, Dreadpool, do you expect other game developers to now start speaking out? And I said, I think that might become a talking point when you look at what Xbox is doing. Like they are, again, we have heard, this is not an assumption, this is not a suggestion, this is not a rumor, this is not me, fishing for information. We have heard, and it's been confirmed, that Microsoft is dropping off a bag of money for the title to get into Game Pass. And there's all these back-end deals, how many downloads, how many people are playing, all this other stuff, contract stuff that we're not going to get into. When seeing the success of this model, and we're seeing now, several developers from the Sony side come out and say, hey, listen, if you don't, if you like the game, and buy the game. Do you think that this is going to be a conversation for games not in services like Game Pass? You're on mute, Dredd.
Of course. I look at the wrong mute button.
It's all right.
I just got thrown off because of the mute. What was that last part? I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying that are we going to start seeing games and developers of these games that are not in Xbox-esque services where more players and more downloads are coming? Are they going to start speaking out against people waiting for sales to buy said games?
Okay, well, let's see. This guy was an ex. Let's call him employee, right? Because
yes,
he's supposed to be running it, right? Why is he an ex? Just like Crispy said, there must be something there.
He left right after the game released.
Right. And most of the time, so right after it released, what happened before that? You know what I'm saying? So where is he at? Why is he speaking against it? Okay, that's the problem. Word of mouth only does you so good, right? Don't we remember there was another game out there that everybody on the Xbox side was talking about how great it is and more people should be playing it. Heck, we even got it free, right? On Games with Gold, free, and it still didn't get a sequel. It even got released from Xbox back to the original developer. Okay, Sunset Overdrive. Did we forget that?
Yes,
okay.
We need it.
Exactly.
We need a Sunset Overdrive too.
Well, you guys might actually get it this time. But that's what I'm saying. As much as everybody praised it, get it now, this and that, it didn't do well.
It didn't reflect the hype.
Something didn't click. Same thing here. This came out, it had some glitches, it looked great. The glitches were actually kind of funny to me. It didn't seem groundbreaking or game breaking to me. You know what I mean? So,
the guy riding a motorcycle without riding a motorcycle was probably one of the bigger ones.
I was like, this is awesome. This is funny. I didn't think of it like, I didn't see like, it was like, I can't play the game. It was just like, I got no motorcycle and I'm running around here like I'm on a speeder or something, Star Wars.
Do you guys remember Red Dead 2's glitches? Remember how like the characters were like spinning in the air and doing like that crazy turns?
They were quite comical. Yeah.
So
right. So and people, obviously some people took it like, oh, look at this. This is how bad it is. Well, the game really wasn't that bad from what I've seen. I haven't played it, so I really don't know. But from what I've seen, it was comical, but it wasn't really like falling through the floor all the time. You know, it happened. I seen some of those videos, but it was only a few people that I could tell. You know, it wasn't like a main thing that killed the game. It's just like you guys said previously, it also resembled another game that Sony had. You know, but and if that's the case, then it has nothing to do with anybody buying it or not. I mean, we said that the numbers were for us it's huge. Now, the investors, how much did they spend, and how much were they expecting back? What was promised by the devs? What was there more promised, and it's just because it took more time, it took more money, and it just didn't come through. And then on top of that, we're talking about scores. Well, who's going to go back once they go on there and put a score in? Not very many
Nobody.
people.
No.
Exactly. So if you put a score in, you're not going to go back, later on to put a score in. What happened with No Man's Sky? Remember that? The game came back, and I still refuse to play it because I don't want to do that. It's just me, right? Some people are like that. Some people are just like, okay, this something against me that does not work with this game because of this or that, and I just will not support it ever. But that's how some people are. Some people are day one, right? Assassin's Creed, what happened? I bought that day one, right? The Odyssey, I bought the biggest version that I could get, right? And then they still released the ultimate version on top of that. I'm like, are you kidding me? They screwed me. But guess what? I still supported them. Now, did I buy Ragnarok? No. Did I buy Immortal? No, but I wanted to. You know what I mean? And I was willing to pay the big money. But there's other limiting factors that will alter someone's opinion or choice of a game. Now, whether or not people bought this right away, I have no idea why, right? But we do know that there's a lot of people that will push a game that have never played it or even bought it. You know, so there's that narrative there. Oh, this and this is the greatest thing ever. Greatest thing is sliced bread. But did you buy it? Did you play it? Did you play a demo? How do you know?
Yeah, well, it's good chance that they didn't.
Right.
They do it for the console war. This is
right.
Spreadsheet. That's all
exactly. But as a fan of Assassin's Creed, before day one, I had it pre-ordered. I was like looking around. What's the highest level of this game can I buy that has everything, all the season passes, all this and that, all the skins, whatever. What is it so I can buy it? Right. That was pre-order. That was what happens now with Game Pass. That alters it. I was going to buy Outriders day one, but now it went to Game Pass, so I decided I'll hold off. So there's other factors that happen here. Now we talked about what happened with when you buy games right now, right? We're going to buy the games right now. We're going to support it right now. But what do we usually do every right around let's say October, November? What do we do? Bethesda releases their games, right? Their Wolfenstein games or Doom. What do? Hold off. Don't buy it right now, right? So the hardcore people that really love it are going to buy it right away, but everybody else is like, hold off. Wait 2 months and it goes on sale. Black Friday, It goes on sale, $20.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? So there's other factors that happen there. And this guy talking all this crap, he's talking through feelings. He's not talking through his facts of anything because he doesn't work there. So I don't take his opinion as anything because he might have knew what the numbers were, but if he was gone shortly thereafter, obviously he didn't meet certain criteria. Now, was it his management skills? Was it just the game? Was it overall every little thing that happened? Was a reaction? We don't know. Did they just not like him? I mean, there's so many different things. Some people have personality issues and they don't meld well, and guess what? They don't last long either. So, but I'm not saying any of this. I'm just saying we don't know.
Right. Right. No, I mean, listen, everyone has fantastic points. This has been one hell of a show. I mean, obviously, we had two major guests to open up the panel, and we got BitCloud and we got Mr. Babbitt to jump in on the back end, and then we were able to pivot and make this, even though it had some, negative stories, we were able to spin it in a way where we all had really excellent opinions. Let me catch up on some of the super chats and we'll get everyone out of here. XTH27 Lost drops an additional $5 super chat and says, thank you for telling me how it went. No problem, brother. I'm very transparent on this show, and if I can help you, then I did my job. Then I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a proper community member. Viper XT, good friend of the show, he drops a $5 super chat and says, my thought is always, if you want a game purchased day one at full price, it must be a game enticing enough to warrant such a day one purchase. Indeed. Pixelbit G, generous friend of the show, he drops a $2 super chat and says, how was Days Gone dev wrong? Microsoft has the same attitude. I don't necessarily think it was wrong. He's entitled to his opinion, but he's also a representative of the brand, even though he doesn't work there anymore. And I thought that the whole buy it at effing full price was a little much for my taste. But you know what? Again, his opinion is his opinion. Easy drops a $5 super chat and he says, there's no point of bragging about console sales. Even though I own a PlayStation 5, how much time do I spend in the PlayStation ecosystem? Since Game Pass, not a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, Dreadpool, we'll get you on out of here, brother. If you got to go, let's get you out, and I will do your outro, brother. On the back end. So thanks for being here, Dread. Definitely appreciate it, bro. And have a fantastic weekend.
All right, thank you, guys.
Yep, you got it, dude. DeAndre Banks, $2 super chat says, will Sony ever put more effort into PS Now, Mr. Badbit? I don't know. They're working on a potential combination of the two. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, we gotta wait till the summer. But it looks like they're doing 1080p now via streaming on platforms or games capable of. So they're just marketing of it is just not good. Like, not bad. It's not good.
Yeah, no, getcha. And I'm Easy drops an additional $10 super chat says, here in Canada, if you buy a PlayStation and 3 PlayStation exclusives, it will cost you $1,037. Add 91 to 104 each for games, while Xbox Series X and 1 year of Game Pass will cost $905 and add $240 each year for Game Pass Ultimate. Value indeed does win. Yeah, well, I mean, great point.
Yeah.
That's again, it's value proposition in a pandemic.
If value's what you want, it's the Xbox.
Yes,
like bar none. That's it is what it is.
Yeah. No. Well, listen, Joe, 100%. But listen, let's get everyone out of here. Obviously, Dreadpool, he is the host of Breaking Bread with Dread. Definitely seek him out. Check out his YouTube channel. Give that a follow and a sub. Also, check him out on Twitter at Dreadpool, and you can definitely find him there. He's very opinionated. He's also doing a lot with this community. He's on several shows. Definitely head over to Dreadpool at Dreadpool on Twitter to follow him. Joe, let's get you on out of here. The Trophy Room has made a triumphant comeback, even though you had a bit of a hiccup this week with Apple. Thanks for being here, brother. Tell everyone about the Trophy Room, one of the best PlayStation shows outside of BitClouds on YouTube, and more importantly, all on RSS feeds that now include Apple again.
Round 2 with Tim Apple begins today. If y'all don't know, we're a podcast, the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players, where each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest and greatest in all things PlayStation. Typically, you can find that on Apple Podcasts. Typically, or always, you can find it on Spotify. You can find the show as well, the video versions over on YouTube. We have 2 episodes this week. The news was so big, we couldn't contain it to one video. So if you guys checked out the usual Thursday show, make sure you check today's show, where we talk about a lot of the news that broke about, PlayStation signing these smaller studios. Yes, even some things about PlayStation Now, and really the communication by PlayStation and Returnal previews. So check all that out on YouTube. And yeah, like, oh my God, wait till we end the show and I tell you what's now going on with me and Tim Apple. We're fighting.
Oh God,
We're fighting again. Round 2. Ding, ding, ding. Let's go.
I can't wait to hear it. BitCloud Gaming, you got a big show coming up today at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Why don't you tell the 400 plus people still here where they can find that show and where could people reach out to you on social media?
Well, it was a good show as always. Good talking to all of you, like always, every Friday. Usually we do RGT at 5, but today we have a massive special guest. So
You sure do.
We have to move the show to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because of her time. But we have the lovely Rachel Quitevis coming through. She is a VFX artist for Sony Santa Monica.
Nice, dude. That's a big get.
And she's going to talk about a few things for PlayStation, obviously her history and everything. And we're also got a few game topics as well to go over. But yeah, that's it. BitCloud Gaming, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. And y'all enjoy your weekend.
No, thanks for being here, brother. And once again, congratulations. That's a big get. Can't wait to see and listen to that podcast. Always great to hear from the development community. Crispy Bomb, you are someone that's very busy. You're on a couple of shows. Tell everyone what shows you're on outside of Breakfast with Boom. And more importantly, where could people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on social media?
Well, it's always a pleasure, gentlemen, and the chat was lit up today as usual. Everybody grabbed their coffee. They were very hyped up, and I love it. And it's at Chrissy Bomb on Twitter, Chrissy Bomb 28 Xbox Live, and we have Retro Renegades Tuesday at 7 p.m. Also, I am going to be a guest on Gaming Beyond the Box Wednesday, 8 p.m. And of course, we got the next podcast, 8 p.m. Thursdays. And I'll round up the week next week with Breakfast with Boom, 10 a.m. Fridays.
Well, listen, I can't wait to see what you have to bring to that wacky group at on Wednesday's show. Obviously, Beyond the Gaming Beyond the Box is a fantastic. Wilmy Hood, fantastic host.
I expect them to talk ish about my internet. That's usually what happens.
Hopefully that won't be the case. But listen, gentlemen, and of course, everyone's still here. Thank you so much for tuning in to Double Barrel Gaming. Definitely appreciate as we march to 10K. Want to thank everybody for the support, especially in the generosity aspect. It's just crazy how much. How many super chats have come in? Thank you so much for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dear old dad taught us when we were kids. And I think now, more than ever, it's super relevant. Treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules. And I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.